Michaels heading up until 2 o'clock. A lot of stuff to get into and talk about today. We'll talk some NFL football, some college football. We'll talk some college basketball. KU taking care of business in the second half last night. Coming out after half and looking like a completely different, certainly defensive team. We'll talk a little bit about that, what we heard from Bill Self, what sparked the difference for the defense and that side of the floor last night for KU. So we'll talk some college basketball today. Notre Dame and Penn State right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB tonight, starting at 6 o'clock with the pregame, and then 6:30 as that game gets underway. You can hear all of the college football playoff games as you've been able to do, and the final 3 games remaining of the college football season right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Tonight, it is Penn State, Notre Dame. Tomorrow, Texas, Ohio State. A lot of people feeling like that's the national championship game. Whoever wins between Texas and Ohio State will be the favorite against Penn State and Notre Dame. Penn State or Notre Dame in the national title game. But we got that game for you on into the NFL playoffs Saturday, Sunday, and Monday night. These next 5 days starting tonight. Some awesome, awesome football, elimination football, college football semifinals, and Super Wildcard weekend. So get ready over the next 5 days of some awesome, awesome football. 913-912-4810 is the text line to join us to be a part of the show. Coming up at 11 o'clock, we'll talk with Matt Lane, KC Sports Network, KCSN, and the KC Laboratory Podcast. We've got Sports or Leisure in the 1 o'clock hour.
Fact.
We'll see. $25 to Johnny's Tavern we give away with some Sports or Leisure. That comes up in the 1 o'clock hour today. 913-912-4810. Let's get into the show and discuss a number of things that we were wanting to get into. Let's start with college basketball. And I will say, if it weren't for West Virginia and that game at Allen Fieldhouse, I don't know that anybody would have been concerned with KU losing that game last night. Dylan, at any point were you nervous about KU losing that game? I would guess like across the board would be no, but I wonder with West Virginia it was like, oh no, come on, we can't lose 2 in a row at home to start the Big 12 season.
Yeah, I wasn't worried for that reason exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what
I just knew we weren't going to do that, and also
right.
I really don't typically worry until February if there's losses that are kind of, not great losses.
It's the Chiefs, baby.
It really is. I said this earlier with all the ref stuff. It's like, yeah, it's been KU basketball for a while because everyone thinks that Higgins or
forever.
Whatever. Like it's been forever. We've been dealing with this forever.
Yeah.
I mean, because T-Rod can just deck Marcus Denman and it's no foul, but sure.
Exactly. See, right there.
I mean, he did put him in the hospital.
Allegedly. Yeah. But that's
I don't think has Flip recovered yet?
Flip Pressing.
Has he been in a wheelchair? Is he
Pressing, not
is he confined?
Denman.
Is he confined to a wheelchair now for since that play? Yeah,
But yeah, it's kind of the same thing with the Chiefs. Is like only December losses really matter. Where February one's same for Kansas. Where I didn't think we'd lose 2 in a row at Allen.
Yeah, Thomas Robinson didn't have to kick him in the face when he was on the ground too. That the refs were like, incidental. Like none of that. I'm just joking. That will never end.
We can joke about it now.
Yes, we can joke about it now. It's all
somewhat.
Good. It's all good. But so that's an interesting way of putting it, because I was wondering at halftime, I'm like, I didn't think he was going to lose that game. But the only morsel of doubt that may have crept in was because they lost to West Virginia. But interesting the way that Dylan viewed it was, no, they were going to lose that game because they lost to West Virginia at home. They were not going to lose 2 games to start Big 12 season at home against West Virginia and then against Arizona State.
Do they also feel a little bit like when the Chiefs, at least during this dynasty so far, they're a second half team? I mean, even against Mizzou, I know they lost that game against Missouri. That second half was vastly different than the first half. Against Arizona State, vastly different than the first half.
The offense against West Virginia, much different in the second half than it was the first half.
I think a lot of times good coaches, they figure out what teams are doing in the first half, and then they exploit the weaknesses come second half time.
Although UCF, it was just like every second of that game was
sure a little
just an avalanche.
Sterling has a more eloquent way of putting what I said. Basically, I know that he's going to figure it out at halftime, so it's more like
that is a good way of putting it. One of the takeaways that I had from last night, and we discussed the West Virginia game and it was like the way I put it was West Virginia came out for a dogfight and KU came out for a Sunday stroll. And defensively, not terrible in that particular game, but as Bill Self said, it's maybe the worst offense he's ever seen in the first half of a game, just coming out and scoring 20 points and being down by 33 points in that, being down 33-20 at halftime against West Virginia. And obviously outscoring them in the second half and scoring 41 points in the second half after scoring only 20. So that was an offensive issue. And it looked like energy on offense was lacking. Defensively, they were fine. It wasn't overwhelming or suffocating or anything. And last night, it was defensively. There were letdowns. There were misplays. There were some struggles offensively that were turnovers that led to buckets the other way for Arizona State. Certainly, I think there are still concerns with this KU team moving forward and figuring out some roles. But what I saw in the second half and what I'm really interested to see moving forward, and Bill Self even said last night, you'll see this more moving forward, was breaking out the full court press. And I wonder how much it's Bill Self going, well, if you're not going to have energy naturally, we're going to create the energy. We're going to full court press. We're going to speed them up. We're going to speed ourselves up. And we're going to have to run up and down the floor and lock in because we're running some full court press. Now, also, Bill Self said he gave him quite the halftime speech. I bet it was low-key. I bet it was really reserved at halftime, Bill Self.
Hey, fellas.
That's also why I know.
Now, fellas, we're going to go ahead and... that was almost Chris Jones.
I know, I went, listen.
Listen.
Listen. Bill Self ain't going to let him lose in the second half. I want that win. Listen. No, but we have to play better in the first half of these games. But I was okay with how he came out in the second half. But we'll figure it out moving forward. So I understand that halftime was probably not the most comfortable for the players. And Shaq Moore said after the game that, well, you had KJ and you had DeJuan Harris. So I'm thinking about the other one that he mentioned, KJ and DeJuan Harris, that were saying, we ain't losing this game, right? We're not losing this game.
Yeah.
So two things coming from that in the second half. The defensive energy, the full court press, Bill Self saying you'll probably see more of that moving forward. And is Shaq Moore the final piece for this, like in the starting lineup, or a playmaker? Like trying to figure out, is it Griffin? Is it Storr? Like who's the guy that's going? Right. And it's like, no, overlooked transfer guard from, where do you go? Mississippi State, Shaq Moore. So overlooked sort of transfer guard that was just sort of a part of the bunch.
It works when Zeke Mayo goes 5 of 8 from 3.
It does, but Shaq Moore was the defensive spark. Like,
well, that's my point.
And he's the guy he's put in, that Bill Self has put in and said, go get a stop. Put you on this guy, go play ridiculous defense. Yes, Mississippi State, and just bother the hell out of that player. And he made, and instinctually, he's a good instinctually defensive player.
Well, I think it's matchup driven, and it comes down to a lot of times what Zeke Mayo's doing. If Zeke Mayo, and because you got to always count on Hunter Dickinson to do his stuff, right? Hunter's going to give you 15 every single night. But you have to have one other wing or guard that gives you points, because KJ Adams is not giving you that. Mm-hmm. DeJuan Harris, I love DeJuan. DeJuan was phenomenal in this game. 7 assists, no turnovers. For is that not the quintessential DeJuan Harris game?
Yeah.
9 points, 7 assists, 0 turnovers, 3 steals. That's DeJuan Harris.
He was even credited with the block. I don't remember what it was.
But one of my favorite players in college basketball to watch, because he is just a traditional old school point guard. Yeah. Love watching him play. But that leaves, if Zeke Mayo is not scoring, if he's not giving you 20, I don't think you can play Shaq Moore. Now, I know Shaq Moore was efficient, 3 of 5, 8 points, defense, great, all that stuff. But if Zeke's not giving you 15 to 20 points, you got to have another scorer on the floor.
Let me offer devil's advocate. If Zeke isn't giving you those points, is it more imperative to have Shaq out there to make sure the other team isn't scoring more points to where you're trying to catch? Because if Zeke isn't scoring, who are you putting?
You have one scorer and Hunter Dickinson on the floor.
That's fine, but if Zeke isn't doing that and you take Shaq Moore off the floor, are you banking on that AJ Storr in the game is going to score in that spot? Is it Rylan Griffin that's going to score in that spot?
Sure.
I mean, AJ Storr comes in with 7 minutes to play in the first half, comes in and plays 3 minutes and looks awful.
Yeah.
And turns the ball over a couple of times. misses a shot and taken right out of the game, and that was it.
Yeah, and Coit was
That was it. That's the last we saw from A.J. Storr. The guy averaged 17 points per game in the Big Ten.
Sure, he's thrilled.
Right. But I mean, is it Coit? Is it Rylan Griffin? So like, if Zeke isn't scoring,
sure,
or if Hunter isn't having a big game, like I might offer devil's advocate and go, well, in that game you'd better depend and rely on your defense even more. So now Shaq Moore maybe becomes more of an imperative player to where you can have Shaq Moore, DeJuan Harris, KJ, some really good defenders. Maybe if Zeke isn't scoring, maybe KJ's the one that leaves the floor.
Sure.
And you bring in Flo.
And that's fine too. Like if that's the way you want to roll, maybe it's KJ. Yeah, maybe it's KJ that goes off the floor, because you're right with Shaq Moore, with KJ, and with DeJuan Harris. I mean, that's just a ridiculous three defensively. Again, my thoughts on Coit. I think Coit is a more influential piece for Kansas going forward. He's got to shoot better. You can't go 0 for 3. But when you have a point guard as talented as DeJuan Harris, he's going to create looks for Coit. You just got to be ready, and you got to hit those. But when you have Hunter Dickinson down low, you have KJ Adams, who can be a great screen setter, and with a playmaker like DeJuan, if you are a three-point shooter, again, like that would be my dream, is to play with guys.
Coit and Rylan Griffin are guys that are spot-up shooters and should get a number of open shots.
And they will, and they'll find their roles.
And
but
Coit's almost shooting 40% from the three.
Yes,
I don't know what the latest is
It was
now.
just that game. But
he might have been shooting 40% before last night.
22 minutes for Shaq Moore feels like a good mark for him, with the smattering of Rylan Griffin and Coit. And again, A.J. Storr, you got to figure out how to use him. I mean, because
he has to figure out what his role. Like, man, this could be such a repeat of Remy Martin, because the scoring is there.
You know it's there. You don't lose that. He wasn't playing, FCS, or he wasn't playing for
a mid-major or
the Delta Devils.
Yeah, right. That's fine.
He's out here playing at Wisconsin, averaging 7. That's Big Ten.
Yeah,
there's some good defense in the Big Ten.
Right.
I don't know what's going on, but he'll figure it out. And you're right. Maybe it's Remy Martin. Who was the white guy last year for KU? The guy that got blocked, but they called a foul, and he made the free throws in the tournament.
Oh, the Towson, Nick Timberlake, right?
Yeah, Timberlake.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like Nick Timberlake, where he's brutal all year, then he makes a couple of clutch shots in big time moments.
And that's one to where it's like A.J. Storr didn't forget how to play or didn't forget how to score, but it was like I said all year last year, like, look, Nick Timberlake didn't forget how to shoot the three ball just because he went from Towson to KU. But maybe he did, because he shot 30% from behind the arc.
It was Markelle Fultz-esque a little bit.
Right, but that was Towson to KU. Wisconsin to KU is a jump up, but it's not Towson to KU. Right? It's not putting on a jersey and going, oh my God, now I'm at KU.
Yeah.
You're at Wisconsin playing in the Big Ten, and you're scoring 17 points, and you're viewed as one of the better players in America. And as a transfer, it was like, boy, you get A.J. Storr. I mean, you're immediately adding, offense to your team. So it's not foreign to A.J. Storr to be in a program that you'd like to go out and win some games. Wisconsin's played in a national title in the last 10 years.
He should be the sixth man. A.J. Storr should not be playing for. Again, this was fine. You're trying to figure out a role for him. If I had a role for A.J. Storr, again,
I'm hungry. I kind of want a dinner roll.
I kind of do too. Yeah. I think A.J. Storr could be a really good sixth man. A guy who you say, all right, A.J., you're a scorer first. That's your role. We saw Wisconsin. You can do it. Maybe it's when you take out KJ, or maybe it's when you take out Zeke Mayo for a few minutes and say, all right, the offense will run for you for 8 minutes, for 6 minutes, for however long it is. Don't worry about it. Jack those shots up.
He reminds, it could, not he does right now, but if that's the role he could grow into, it reminds me of what is already established east of here in Warwick, who comes in the game, and Dennis Gates is, you go score. Like, we're putting you in the game to score points.
It's NBA six-man, but when I say six-man, I mean NBA six-man. I like the Lou Williams, the J.R. Smith's best role. Jordan Clarkson, when he won six-man of the year, I believe he won six-man of the year. He was a really good six-man for a long time before he took over a starting role. But like something like that, where you are a spark plug. When you go in, you have one job. Get shots up. We know you can score. But and when you have that role, you no longer have the worry of, if I miss a shot, I'm coming out of the game. It's, no, you're getting the ball right back.
You just can't play a disastrous 3 minutes where you turn the ball over, look lost,
you can't
miss a shot.
You can't do that.
It's like, well, I can't play you tonight.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
But the point is, if you are a six-man, you will have a 4-minute stretch where the offense is going to run through you. I think AJ Storr should be that guy.
Yeah, I mean,
could be that guy.
But he also has to grow into that role too. Like, I mean, now 13 minutes into the game, he comes out and plays, but he also doesn't look like he's ready to play when he gets in the game. Like, that's on him. He's got to. You're transferring to KU. You understand that, you know, it's you're in you're now in a what do they call it? Not necessarily a snow globe, but you're in a glass case. Is that what it's like? Everything you do is going to be watched. Like, everything you do on the floor is going to be overanalyzed.
And your role's
you're not hiding.
Your role's not guaranteed.
Yeah, and you're not hiding there at Allen Fieldhouse.
Well, like for Mizzou, Mark Mitchell from Duke, right?
Yeah.
But he chose Mizzou because he could have a larger role and the offense could help be facilitated through him, right?
Yeah.
Well, Mizzou's not Kansas. You can promise that role to Mark Mitchell.
I mean, calm down.
No, but you can promise that role to get a guy like that.
Right.
You're not going to say AJ Storr. Hey, no matter what happens, you're going to be our guy. You're playing 30 minutes a game, 35.
You're coming here to help us win a national championship. That's what you're doing, AJ Storr. Do you want to be a part of a team that can win a national title?
Yes.
Come here. We've got Hunter. You're one of the pieces that we think can get us there. Do you want to join? Let's go. Here's the NIL deal. Let's move forward. You're here to win a national title. If you want to score 25 points a game, don't leave Wisconsin or go to another school.
Yes.
But you want to score whatever it takes to win a national title? Then let's do that. You want to score 25 points a game? Find another school. Your choice. And when you sign up for that, you understand what that's going to be. Bill Self isn't the easiest coach to play for. But if you figure out and you can tap into what he's looking for and how to be comfortable within that, then he can tap in to get the best out of you.
Yeah.
Hunter Dickinson got right on the floor and was ready to go.
He's not the easiest coach to play for if you're looking to play ISO, like one-on-one.
Yeah.
Like, that's basically, if you're looking to play that, it's not really the place for you.
Yeah, right. And
But you're going to learn how to play like sound basketball and learn how to be able to keep a job in the NBA. If you're an elite player, then you're going to be well above that, obviously. But,
Unselfish, too.
right.
And I think
But also, unselfish could also mean taking the shot when you're open. I mean, I think
Sure,
that's missed too. Like,
that's a good basketball play.
Yeah.
Like if you're making a good basketball play, take the shot.
unselfish is get out of
You're
your own
pulling
head.
up a three in transition.
Unselfish is like DeJuan Harris is really unselfish, right?
Yes.
We know that.
Yeah.
But he's also unselfish that when he's open for three, he takes it. Because that's what the defense is saying in this possession.
Correct.
Score when relied upon, DeJuan Harris. You can set everybody else up, but now the offense has moved around to you to be the guy to take the shot. If you pass up this shot, next time KU may get a shot, could be with like 3 seconds on the shot clock, and now you're taking a bad shot. Right now, this is the best shot you're probably going to get in this possession. If you turn it down, that is being selfish.
And he struggled this year from 30%, but last year 38%, and the year prior 40%. He's really improved from his early season.
Who are we talking about?
DeJuan Harris.
DeJuan Harris, yeah.
So,
yeah.
because Bill Self
Last year
has
really good.
told him, and it's like I've been impressed with the growth. It was Bill Self trusting it. And by the way, and again, Bill Self has done a great job of getting guys to the NBA who are unselfish. Christian Brown was not this elite scorer for Kansas.
Yeah.
He wasn't. But
again, DeJuan Harris is unselfish by taking the shot when he's open.
Yes, but and that's what I think you don't have to put up 20 a game in college to be an NBA player. And again, I think Christian Brown's a perfect example of this because, I keep going back because what did he do great? He was athletic, played defense, but he was unselfish at Kansas. He really was.
Yeah,
Ochai Agbaji.
Just because you score doesn't mean you're going to make it in the NBA.
He also kind of set the tone, I would say. He was one of the tone setters of the team as far as like a
Christian
mentality.
Brown.
But if he played
Christian
for
Brown was just like
DePaul, he was
Christian
not getting
Brown,
drafted.
Yeah, right, Christian Brown. Yep, you might be right on that.
If he did the same style, but he played for DePaul, he's not getting drafted because he played for Bill Self.
And
Bill
he played
Self,
on the national stage.
Yes.
And he played in a Final Four.
If you're good, they'll find you. But yeah, I mean,
but
maybe not as high.
It helps. Yeah. It helps. He just reminds me of just Steele. Like he's tough as nails. Like he's just out there. You're not going to push him around. You're not going to get into his head. He's going to probably get into your head. And he's just going to be incredibly solid. And there's an expected level probably every night he goes out on the floor of what you're going to get from him and how hard he's going to play. Are you going to get points, rebounds? We'll see how the game flows. But you know you're going to get the guy who's going to bust his butt when he's out there and is not going to be intimidated or be pushed around. I don't know if that's a natural ability and character trait that he had his whole life, or if that's something that developed at KU with Bill Self, or he was more open to it, or it was there and then Bill Self tapped into what was already there and honed it more. Like, I don't know those particulars, but he reminds me of that guy. Like, he can play for Bill Self because he doesn't look like he ever lacks for confidence. And if he struggles, he can still sort of feel like I'm the baddest dude out here. I don't care what you say. I look in the mirror and I see, a heavyweight fighter. You see a scrawny white guy that's went to Blue Valley. That's what you see. I see a dude that's gonna punch you right back in the face, and I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna bite your kneecap off while I get up. Like I'm Dan Campbell, damn it. And maybe Shaq Moore is that guy. Maybe Shaq Moore is that guy defensively that can be that. But right now, AJ Storr is going the route of Remy. And if it plays out exactly the same, well, then KU will certainly take that. But full court press moving forward is something that I'm going to be interested to see how much. And maybe Bill Self uses it if he doesn't feel like there's energy at that time in the game. And defensively, it was 42 points, the most that they've given up in the first half this year to any opponent was against Arizona State. And then the first points they scored in the second half was with under 13 minutes to play.
Well, and also this is a roster that has lost Johnny Furphy to the NBA,
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Wilson to the NBA, Grady Dick to the NBA,
Yeah.
right? That's 3 players that they lost to the NBA.
And they're deep enough to where Tex came in and said they're deep enough if they want to play full court press more. They can do some of those things. They aren't a team that we saw a few years ago when KU was playing with 6 guys and that was really it. Like you're not pressing anybody and you're hoping that you don't get pressed and he mentioned that with last night's game. Like hey, when you've got guys that are out there and they're playing, Arizona State's playing 6 guys. Like 5 guys played 30 minutes or more.
32 minutes or more.
Yeah, 32 minutes or more. And Mason, local kid, played all 40 minutes in the game. And what Bill Self said, when you've got 5 guys that are out there playing 35 minutes or so, 35 minutes, like, yeah, we're going to run some press and we're going to speed you up and we're going to tire you out because, okay, you had 10 guys play. 9 of them played double-digit minutes. AJ Storr, part of the 10, only played 3. We'll take a timeout. We'll continue rolling. 913-912-4810 is the text line. Steve Spagnuolo has been contacted by 2 teams now that are interested in hiring him or having him be a part of the candidates to be hired with their teams. The Jets and the Raiders. We'll talk about that. Certainly, the Athletic has their all-rookie team out, which Chiefs player made it on the all-rookie team. Travis Kelce yesterday weighing in on breaking Tony Gonzalez's record, but what he was talking about in discussing what Tony Gonzalez meant to him, I think is something that we can relate to this team. And a lot of other things I want to get into here in the show. I do want to compare those quarterbacks in the AFC with the Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow. I know Joe Burrow was not in the playoffs. The change.org petition apparently was not, it did not go through the NFL. So there is no 4th wildcard team, and the Chiefs do get the bye week. They don't have to play the Bengals in the 4th wildcard game in the AFC. That's too bad for Karen. And so with these quarterbacks, I do want to see the comparison in the playoffs and regular season and, what stats they're better at or worse at from regular season to playoffs. And then also, what do they do in the losses? Like, look at what the quarterback's impact on that team is. Then we'll kind of go through and see which quarterback out of the other 13 are we taking on our team. You can't have Mahomes. You can't have him. Okay? Who are you taking after that? I think there are 2
Matrick
choices.
Mahomes, probably.
Matrick Mahomes. The guy dressed up as Kermit the Frog.
I'm here to play quarterback for your team. I'm here. I'll wear 15 or 5.
other things besides the workouts or nutrition. You may be putting on weight, decreased energy, brain fog, all of those things. Go to heartlandmenshealth.com. Take the low T quiz on the website. Simple 10-question quiz. Yes, no answers. Takes 2 minutes. You can schedule a consult with Heartland Men's Health. They'll do your lab work. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels, Steve Spagnuolo. The Jets and the Raiders have requested an interview with Spags. So the Jets have interviewed, or are, I think yesterday they interviewed Borgonzi and Matt Nagy, which, hearing Adam Kaplan this morning, may sound like that could be a package type deal, that maybe it could be one or the other, but he seemed to think that there was some connection to it of both of those guys. I would, if I'm Mike Borgonzi, I'm not attaching myself to Matt Nagy in saying, hey, Matt Nagy is my coach if I'm the GM.
Yeah.
Because then if they don't want Matt Nagy as the coach, then therefore do they not want you as the GM? Same thing with Matt Nagy. Like, no, if I'm working, I want to work with Borgonzi.
You can have your pick, but be like, it's not a deal breaker.
Yeah, right. But it could also mean that the Jets are going, these guys already know each other. They have a great relationship. They don't have to get to know each other. They know how each other thinks. They know the players that each other likes, the scouting of it, the developing of it. They have an idea. They're more cohesive. So what's wrong with hiring an offensive coordinator, previous head coach, and an assistant GM of a dynasty to work together to build this team that already has at least a number of players who are really good? You have to add in some important spots, but you've got a stud wide receiver, a really good running back. You've got some stud defensive players. You need a QB.
Well, I think that's to come down to if they are allowed any say with Rodgers. Because that's a non-starter. If not, and two, I think the Jets are dumb, and they're not going to take any chief personnel. The Jets are dumb, and they're going to be like, you know what? No, we want Rex Ryan again. Like, I don't trust the Jets to make the correct decision. I don't.
Well, I don't trust Woody Johnson and his sons to make the correct decision on GM and coach, and whichever one they think is first. Because, I mean, Clark Hunt made the decision that Andy Reid was the most important.
Yes.
But yeah, Scott Pioli was the GM of the year, right, with the Patriots. And Bill Belichick was there. And then Scott Pioli comes in, and Todd Haley's hired, and then Romeo Crennel is hired. And then at that point, it's, I need a coach. Because this GM has had a couple of coaching hires, and we're picking number one. So, Andy Reid, what do you want? You may not want to be the GM and head coach, but maybe you don't want to work with Scott Pioli? Fine. That sounds good. Wasn't planning on firing him, but you're the most important piece, Andy. You are the starter here for us. Nothing happens until I get a decision on you. And if you are saying it's not a non-starter, but it would be a high preference on my list of things that I'd like to see happen if I were to be the Chiefs coach, is probably not having Scott Pioli as my GM. Let's find somebody John Dorsey, great. Brett Veach, let's bring him in. Yeah, Chris Ballard, guys that sounds good. That sounds good. While we sit here in Philadelphia and not let you get on the plane to go to Arizona. Right? Yeah. These are things these are our concerns, dude. Right?
He is the rug.
Yeah. So right. You know what? Clark Hunt was Andy Reid was the rug.
It really tied this team together.
Ties the entire city together. But from that perspective, from Clark Hunt saying, Andy Reid, this is the decision, and then everything else falls in place after that. And if you're in New York, like, I don't know, is their decision coach first and then GM? Is it GM and then lets the GM hire the coach? Because I don't know how much Woody Johnson and his sons are going to be wanting to weigh in on what the coach's Madden ratings are. You know, what's Matt Nagy's Madden rating as an offensive coordinator? I'm not sure. I don't know that they have that.
Where's his personnel branches? Like, where is he? You know how you sometimes get those certain ones. Is it 3% off of free agent signings? Is it what?
That's a great point.
Offensive line all of a sudden gets more
awesome.
XP. How's that work? Yeah,
that's awesome. Matt Nagy's specialty is the passing game.
Ah, okay.
So and Borgonzi's specialty is 3rd to 6th round draft picks.
Yeah, yeah. So if you bring it, so Woody's sons go to Woody and say, okay, Woody. So here's what we have for you. We've done some research.
They call him Woody. They call him Wood. They call him Dad. Pops. Hey, yo, Pops. Listen up.
Hey, Big Wood. Pause. It would.
So anyway, Spags is being Nagy and Borgonzi yesterday. Spags, they have reached out to him. Tom Brady has reached out to Steve Spagnuolo to interview for that job with the Raiders. Multiple teams have reached out to Bill Belichick. You have to wait till July, July 1st. Feel free at that point. But until July, I can't help you. Now, I can probably consult on some draft picks and things like, but I can't be your coach until July 1st. Unless I just negotiate a buyout here.
$10 million, right?
$10 million, but you can negotiate the buyout, so
It's $1 million after July.
July 1st drops to $1 million. $10 million before that. But Bill Belichick has been contacted by a couple of teams. The Tom Brady factor is going to be really interesting because I have no faith that the Raiders would have hired the right coach without Tom Brady being there.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, that's
what worried me the whole time.
But if you're a coach, though, Dylan Sterling,
Jason.
That's right, and the Raiders have you as one of their top candidates. Okay, you're one of the top 3 guys that we're going to hire here. I mean, getting a head coaching job in the NFL is difficult. There's 32 jobs in the world. It's one of 32 jobs in the world.
Well, defensive coordinator is one of 32 jobs in the world, too, as an NFL coach.
That's true. Well done. But that job with the Raiders is you wake up in the morning and in your division is the Chiefs, Chargers, and Broncos already with Andy Reid, Sean Payton, and Jim Harbaugh. 4 Super Bowl championships and another Super Bowl appearance in Harbaugh. And Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and at least the beginning of Bo Nix.
Yeah.
That's what you wake up as the coach of in Vegas. I know coaches are hired to be fired.
Yeah.
But you're closer to be. Nick Saban fired a lot of coaches.
Sure.
He got a lot of coaches fired because every year it was like, well, why can't you beat Alabama? You're not beating Alabama. Well, you're fired. We're going to bring in somebody else. Well, now they're losing to Alabama again. Well, you're fired. He got a lot of coaches hired because it was turned over a lot. He got a lot of payouts for fired coaches. But we've seen that in the AFC with other teams. The Broncos have 3 coaches in 4 years.
That, though, man.
I don't know that they do either.
Think head coaches.
I think Ben Johnson should think like that.
If you're an elite of the elite, where
if you're the number 1 candidate back-to-back years,
then you can be pickier. But I do think it's one of those situations where if you wait too long, you become Lou Anarumo, where you may have been waiting for your specific spot, and all of a sudden you're fired as a DC.
Interesting, yeah.
So,
and Spags has already been a head coach before, so he understands the rigors of that.
Sure.
Now, Vegas or New York, different than St. Louis, but he's coached in New York before as the DC, so he has an idea of what that's like. So he would go in with eyes wide open of what's expected there with the New York Jets.
I think it's
the Raiders
easy.
Expected is just to not win 5 games, win 6 or 7, and you're good. Maybe if he got his haircut like, Davis, then now you can get another year. Antonio Pierce did not get a bowl cut. That's the problem.
Or if you do the Sean McVay, I think that gets you as many years as you want. If you cut the Sean McVay where you look like a middle schooler from 1997 with
no, you just have
necklace,
to stand next to him.
Just stand next to him. Get a little Sean McVay on you.
Yeah.
Just get the aroma of Sean. Ooh, you kind of smell like Sean McVay. We're going to hire you.
It's hilarious.
Zach Taylor, you're the quarterback coach for Sean McVay. You're hired.
Sean McVay is like, I'm going to cut my hair like it's 1997, and I'm not going to wear a puka shell necklace.
Sure
I'm just going to draft someone whose name's Puka.
So is Mark Davis? Is that a '60s haircut? Is that where's the bowl cut?
No, that's not
like
there.
the Mark, because that's an awful
even
haircut.
the Beatles say that's bad.
But if you're the Jets, you've got a rebuilding Patriots that's also hiring a new coach. You've got Miami that may be looking for a new coach next year.
Yeah,
and you do have the Bills that are going to be the beast of that division for the next 5 to 10 years with Josh Allen.
I think it's easy for us to say, I'll just wait for a good job to open.
I'm not saying Spags should turn it down. What I'm saying is I don't think Spags should just jump at the opportunity and say, I'm taking whatever job is thrown my way. Because, look, I don't know what's going on in his personal life behind the scenes. He seems like an amazing dude. He talks about the relationship with his wife. All of his players love him a lot. And maybe at his age he's saying, if I don't take one more chance of being a head coach, I'm never going to get that chance.
Yeah.
As opposed to, am I happy enough and good enough right now that Andy and I, for the next 5 years, can just ride off in the sunset as the head coach, defensive coordinator, and I'm the head coach of the defense. He lets me do my thing.
Sure.
He's the head coach of the team, but he's on the offensive side. I got the whole defense here, right? I don't have anybody with their thumb, telling me to do this or that, or coming to me and going, well, why'd you do this? Or why don't we do this on defense? I'm the head coach of the defense. I'm pretty happy. I'm well compensated as the highest paid assistant coach
and also,
in the league.
why are we so sure Nagy is the coach in waiting? If Andy steps aside, maybe
It's
Andy's made that promise to Spags, like Seifert, like Soren was saying, that there's always a strong-minded defensive guy with the offensive guy. George Seifert took over after Bill Walsh from the 49ers. I mean, he might be saying that maybe we just go the defensive route.
You'd be going against the grain.
You would be, but you would also be going with much more experience.
Yeah.
And also, if
sure
you're picking between Matt Nagy and Steve Spagnuolo, who are you choosing?
I'm sure Patrick has a say too. If we're being honest,
I mean,
I'm
who
sure
are you guys
Patrick
choosing?
has-
Patrick loves Matt Nagy.
Spags. You're choosing.
But who are
Spags.
you guys choosing?
Spags. But I think Spags
I don't know.
makes a lot of sense.
I don't know that I'm choosing Spags because
Age.
no, I now he calls the game for on the defensive side. I'm not sure Rams fans in St. Louis would have to tell me if he was the coordinator of defense
If you look,
in
it's
St. Louis.
not the best, but
Yeah, but was he coordinating was he calling the plays? Was he doing what he does now for the Chiefs? That would at least give me some faith on one side of the football, because I do think there's an element of, if the coach can do it and he's successful, is he coordinating one side of the football? Because if I lose a coordinator, like Andy Reid has lost Doug Peterson and Matt Nagy and Eric Bieniemy along the way, and quarterbacks coaches along the way, yet the offense seems to be pretty damn good because it's Andy's offense.
Sure.
When Ben Johnson leaves in Detroit,
That's interesting.
Dan Campbell's an offensive guy. He's a tight end. He ain't the coordinator. So now he has to find the next coordinator to be what Ben Johnson is. I do think the job is a little bit easier with that offensive line, that running game. Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Sam
personnel.
Laporta.
Yeah.
The personnel is pretty good. So Ben Johnson, if he goes somewhere that does not have near the personnel on offense that the Lions have, he's going to have to get creative, and he's going to have to find ways to not just recreate what he did in Detroit, but do what's best for whatever that team is and the players available. You can't just go, I'm going to go get me a Gibbs. You got yourself 60% of Jahmyr Gibbs, and he's not Gibbs then. That's not him. So
I can offer you a DeAndre Swift.
what if I gave you a DeAndre Swift and a second rounder?
And a Jamal Williams.
And a Jamal, yeah, that's
Two
right.
guys that used to be Detroit Lions, yeah. That
I'm
was
gonna-
the old
if I
old Gibbs Montgomery.
You know what? I'll use an actual
Wow.
one. What if I gave you Zach Moss and Chase Brown? That was the Bengals
yeah.
starting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, you have Montgomery, who, by the way, is going to return. Looks like he's going to play next week. That came out of nowhere. And I know he has continued to say, my season's not over.
Well, I guess you could get a Brees Hall, Braylon Allen.
Brees Hall, Braylon Allen. You could
with
get
the Jets.
Yes, if he were to take the
A
Jets
legit
job.
one. Or a Zamir White,
Zamir White and-
Alexander Madison.
Yeah. Alexander, they're kind of the same though. No, right?
there's not
What's the? Is it Seriously or what's the running back's name that played against the Chiefs? Serendipitously, Sincere. Yeah. Sincerest. Sincere can be a little bit of that change of pace back, but hey, Montgomery and Gibbs. What if I offered you Zach Moss and Chase Brown? Well, we're building our personnel kind of like that, Penei Sewell. What if I gave you? I don't know. Let's say Orlando Brown. Okay, like we've got a tackle. He plays in the NFL, and he's a tackle. Okay, great.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, I can get you Jacoby Myers.
No, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, if we're just, I'm looking at the Bengals, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown, I can get you Jamar Chase, right? He's not going to take over for the Bengals, but just like, hey, maybe there's an area here or there. Spags is, he's 65 years old.
I like him with the Jets. I like him with the Jets, personally.
This may be his last chance. This may be his last chance to get a job. I hope he doesn't take the Raiders job because I don't want to root against him.
Agreed.
And I think whoever takes the Raiders job has a pretty decent chance of being fired in a few years because they don't have the personnel set up there. They don't have the quarterback. And they've got 6 games a year against the Chiefs, Broncos, and Chargers that are already ahead of the curve on them. That's a tough job to take. I might take the Jags job. Now, he's not being interviewed there. But the AFC South seems a little bit more open than the AFC West and the AFC East in the fact that you're going to have to overcome the Bills if you want to win that division.
I like him with the Jets and that defense.
give me the Saints.
Saints, I like the Saints too.
The
but
Jets and the defense.
I'm picking a
is fascinating. It's
dumpster
good
fire.
point.
Give me the Saints.
I think Spags with that defense and
good
that
point.
talent in New York, and he's kind of from that area. I like Spags with the Jets.
You got to find the QB. Oh, you know what? They should go out and get a guy like Sam Darnold to play in New York.
What's his Madden rating?
All right, wrapping up this hour, Matt Lane. We'll talk with him coming up in the next segment. We'll see if he thinks Nagy, Spags, Borgonzi, the triumvirate, if all three return, none of them return, one or two, what does next year look like front office? Is Borgonzi still the assistant GM? Does Chris Shea get moved up? Is Nagy still the OC? Is
Orange County.
That's right. Is Spags still the DC? Washington. Is Spags still the capital? Well, he's in the capital, soccer capital of the United States. He was in the lowercase.
Frankfurt.
When he was at St. Louis. He was in the lowercase.
Jeff City.
There. It's KC. Mo. Wager at 1 o'clock. Right now, we're talking with Matt Lane, KC Sports Network, KC Laboratory Podcast. Matt, welcome into the show. How are you, brother?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. It's a nice, again, relaxing week to be a Chiefs fan. If they don't have anything bad that can really happen to them this week, it's all good this time.
It's really weird this season because, last year was such a struggle. And even Patrick Mahomes, when he showed up to training camp and said last year wasn't really fun, winning back-to-back Super Bowls wasn't a lot of fun doing that. This year has been much different than last year in those struggles. But like week by week last year, Matt, it was like, how good are they? Like at this point last year, we're talking about the frigid temperatures that were coming in, and it was going to be like minus 30, and how they're going to play, and playing Miami, and they're going to have the toughest road we've ever seen in the playoffs if they have to go to Buffalo and go to Baltimore and then play maybe the 49ers. That was also top 5 DVOA, all of that stuff. So it's different in the feeling this year, but it's so different, Matt, that I think the last time I went into a week where I'm like, I'm kind of nervous about this game was the Buffalo Bills game. And that feels like it was 2 months ago. Like it's odd because there's really zero pressure and stress this week. There was zero stress last week. Christmas Day was just, boy, I hope they don't ruin my Christmas Day again like they did last year. But the last time it went into a game going, oh my goodness, I'm so concerned or nervous and butterflies was Buffalo. That was a while ago, Matt.
It's been a long time since it has felt like the Chiefs had not a game that they could lose, but a game of a lot of significance that felt like it was really a toss. Like they had the Christmas Day game against the Steelers, they had the Texans game, which were playoff matchups, and hey, if we have it our way, we probably want to see those teams again next weekend, right? But they had those games and they win as well as they possibly could have, and I think that feeds into the feeling right now of, wow, this really feels like it's been not an entirely stress-free, but compared to last year, a very much less stressful run into the playoffs, and the team's peaking at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
They're not playing, what looks to be some of their worst games going into the playoffs like they were last year. They've played some of their best games, so it's a good time. This is a very nonchalant, very everything's going well for the Chiefs kind of feeling, which was the opposite of last season.
No doubt. I want to get into some of the particulars and specifics, but this is just sort of a broad question to you and to pick your brain and see what you land on. If you look at these last two games, not the Broncos, the last two games the starters played in against Houston and Pittsburgh, that widely regarded with DVOA and EPA and time to throw and Mahomes' success and Andy Reid's own commentary, best two offensive performances of the season. Why do you think those two games have stood out as the best performances for this team?
Oh, there's a handful of stuff. I think the biggest thing is that Patrick Mahomes probably played his two best games or two of his best games of the year back-to-back weeks. I do think the addition of Hollywood Brown coming back into the receiving room opens up the playbook for Xavier Worthy to move around a little bit more, who's now coming into his own. It just feels like all the pieces started falling in place, which allowed Patrick Mahomes to play as good as he had all year. And I don't want to say that the quick passing game and the addition of Joe Tooney at left tackle didn't matter as much or doesn't matter, but I think ultimately when I go back and look at it, I think it's just Mahomes simply playing, not perfect, but playing exceptional football as all the receiving weapons kind of fall into place and allow this offense to look closer to what I think they envisioned coming into the season.
How much is that? So after that Cleveland Browns game, Matt, I looked at it and I wasn't concerned about it. Like Mahomes did not play well. In fact, he played pretty poorly in that Cleveland game. And I pointed out a couple of times, and I don't know if we were talking to you on the air, if it was Kent, but pointed out a couple of times the receivers and the plays in which Patrick Mahomes passed up to take deeper shots. And, what I said about that game, I believe in that Mahomes doesn't pass up a profit to try to get rich. And he was doing that in the Cleveland game. And then against Houston and Pittsburgh, what did we see? Quickest times to throw. He wasn't passing up a profit to go, well, let me see if this other guy will come over in the second level. It was, here's the read pre-snap. I know where I'm going with the football. Here's what I'm going to read off of. The guy's open. I'm going to get rid of the football on time, accurately. Let's move the chains. Let's keep it moving. That's been Mahomes in the playoffs. And that's where some of these performances this year, I do wonder if some of the performances are, I've got some leeway here. Let me try and do this because if it's playoff time, we may be doing this. But in the playoffs, he's a take a profit, keep it moving, and is accurate and on time, and not typically passing up an open receiver for 10 yards to try to take a shot at a receiver that might be covered for 25 yards.
I do think at various times throughout the year, and especially coming down the stretch here, once they got DeAndre Hopkins and they found out how the offense works then, and then they continued, then they got past that little iteration of this Chiefs offense. I do think they went out and they tried to find ways to manufacture more vertical passing attack. We saw them get a lot more into the hard play action game where they're keeping 6 or 7 blockers in, coming out of under center, hard play action, trying to hit the ball downfield. We saw them running more vertical concepts, and I do think that culminated in, one, a lot of lack of success because they were not doing a particularly good job at it. They were not excelling. But 2, it definitely made the offense feel very uneven and very inconsistent for a while. And it seemed like for those 2 games that we're talking about against the Texans and the Steelers, they kind of got back away from that. They said, okay, we'll run a couple of these vertical shots. And one, they had probably some of their better looking looks and throws and plays trying to go downfield. But it felt a little bit more like they were getting to an offense that's going to be more stable down the down. They stopped trying to force the deep pass to be part of their game, and it just kind of came in with it came in rhythm with everything else. And if they can continue that for the playoffs, that'll matter. I do think they needed to go through that process of trying to get the vertical passing game down. I don't know if you can completely ignore that in today's game and have a ton of success. So I like that they went through that and they figured out what does and what doesn't work for them. But it does feel like the Texans, the Steelers, that's kind of the blueprint for what the base level of the base part of this passing game is going to be.
And also they hit a vertical shot with Justin Watson with Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown on the field at the same time that the Steelers brought a blitz. And they, by bringing the blitz, Mika Fitzpatrick had to come up and cover Xavier Worthy. And the single high safety that they rotated into had to shade to the side of Hollywood Brown because they also had one-on-one coverage, which left Justin Watson with one-on-one coverage, and he won his matchup. You got to win your matchup, and he did. But that single high that they typically, you don't see a lot of single high for the Chiefs. They threw single high, and because that single high safety had to shade somewhere else, go win, Justin, and he did.
Yeah, and I don't want to blanket this too much because I agree those 2 games matter. It was also the perfect set of opponents for the Chiefs in that stretch to go through that offense. 2 single high heavy teams, 2 teams that, especially in high leverage downs, love to play man coverage. And when you have a pretty good idea, if you're Andy Reid, what you're going to get, and it's on one hand, it's the 49ers defensive coaching tree that the Chiefs have played a ton of times with the Texans, going down to DeMeco Ryans. And then over with the Steelers, they've run the same defense for a decade plus now. A lot of man coverage, a lot of single high. You can get into your quote-unquote good plays reliably against those 2 teams. So it is worth at least adding a little footnote that, hey, that level of success offensively for that type of game, all the quick passing, all the crossing routes, all the stuff underneath, it could also be because they weren't seeing as much zone coverage, as much too high stuff as they had in the majority of the season. So it is worth noting. I don't want to wet blanket it too much. I thought it was a very impressive performance, but those 2 defenses did make it a little easier for the Chiefs than I think some other opponents might in the playoffs.
Visiting with Matt Lane, how much do you think the rest will help? We talk about Kelsey and those guys, but Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco, Jesse Newell had an interesting story yesterday in the Star in talking with Kareem Hunt and Hunt telling him the story about, after one of the games, he couldn't get out of bed the next morning. He just couldn't move. And he's gotten fewer carries these last few weeks or last few games. And then now he's got, 24 days to rest to get fully healed. Because didn't we see more of a burst from Kareem Hunt at the beginning of the year, certainly, than we did late?
Yeah, for sure. And I'd have to go back and look at the exact games, but there was a point in the season where I remember watching it and saying, oh, Kareem Hunt looks like he hurts right now. Because there was a game where he was just a little slower getting up off the field after a routine tackle. It looked like every play was taking a toll. And now, if I remember, and I don't remember which game it was, but if I do remember right, come fourth quarter, he actually had a couple nice runs and played a big part in the Chiefs being able to close out the win. So it wasn't that he couldn't still play. It just he looked like a guy in pain. And so seeing that story yesterday or the other day, I was like, okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense. And so the rest for him, you think is going to be huge. The rest for a guy like Travis Kelce, who's played a ton of snaps for this team and while he hasn't been injured this year, it definitely looks like he has slowed down a little bit. You see him after any play where he runs a long distance, he's kind of coming out for a play or two. They're using him a lot more as a blocker or just kind of like a check down guy, so he's not having to run as much. Having this extra time off before you could really gear him up for the playoff run probably makes a big difference.
Visiting with Matt Lane. The reason I said Matt Allen, Matt, is because talking about running backs, it reminds me of some tweets you sent out, whether it was yesterday or the day before, because you and I are sort of on the same wavelength of LaQuint Allen at Syracuse. Is it because he wears one that I look at him and I see Jerick McKinnon? Or is it you see a lot of that? He's so quick when he hits the hole, like the jump cuts and the receiving skills. Like I've become more and more enamored with him. I know this is an off-season conversation, but they do have the bye week this week, and you tweeted it out, and he's a guy that I had sort of looked at and said, God, I would love to see him in a Chiefs uniform. Is it because he wears number 1 that I see Jerick McKinnon?
That could be part of it, but it's also a similar-ish body type, right? Like McKinnon was pretty slender for a running back. I think Allen's a little bit like taller, a little bit more.
Yeah, he looks tall. You're right.
Allen looks like a wide receiver, right? So he looks like he's a wide receiver build, and that's when I initially was watching. I was like, oh, this is a fun third down running back in the Chiefs version of Jerick McKinnon, this third down running back who you can split out and have run some routes. He's going to be a reliable pass catcher. And that was my thought kind of going in and when I first started watching. And so, yeah, I 100% get that. But then with the more I watched, I was like, oh, wait, he actually understands how to run. He's got really good running back instincts for a guy that offers so much as a receiver. And that takes me back. I think the Jerick McKinnon comp's pretty good because if you go back to early career Jerick McKinnon before some of those knee injuries, he was also a very good running back. He could do a little bit of everything. So that's definitely the type of player that I think you're looking at. And if as long as there's no injuries, you might get that kind of early season Jerick McKinnon type player where he's a runner and a receiver and just a perfect change of pace to a bunch of downhill 3 yards at a time, efficient runners that the Chiefs seem to have around right now.
I still contend that if the Chiefs would have just simply, in the second half against the Bengals, handed off to Jerick McKinnon 15 times, they win that game, and then they win the Super Bowl. And I think we're viewing Jerick McKinnon a little bit differently because he looked so perfect in the way that offense was running when he was the one going, and he had that burst. And it's like he felt a little more Damian Williams than the Chiefs have had in a while. But he lost his burst and all of that stuff, and they really haven't had it since. So, yeah, I get enamored by that, and I really wanted the Chiefs to go out and get more of a speed running back in the offseason. That's more of an offseason conversation as well. It just came up as we're talking about running backs, and I remember you tweeting about LaQuint Allen and Seren probably having as much love for Allen as anybody to join the Chiefs. Matt Lane is our guest. Well, part of the running game that people have wondered, is it because Joe Thuney is at left tackle and Caliendo is at left guard as to why the running game has struggled? That could be the case. Big conversation, DJ Humphries or Joe Thuney. What did you see from DJ Humphries against the Broncos before we get into that question? But just what did you see from DJ Humphries? Did you see enough to where you would be comfortable if he's out there in the divisional round game at left tackle?
Yeah, let's start with DJ Humphries. I have seen enough to think that the Chiefs should try him at left tackle next to Joe Thuney at left guard. Do I know 100% if it will work or not? Absolutely not. But I do think that you can always go back to the Joe Thuney, Mike Caliendo left tackle, left guard lineup if you get a quarter, a half, whatever it is into a game, and DJ Humphries isn't working. You can go back to that other iteration that has at least provided a safe floor. But for DJ Humphries, I think he continues to get better the more game time he gets. I know there was a couple bad reps towards the end of the Denver game, and those are worth noting, and maybe that's a game conditioning thing. He looked like he was slowing down as that game went on. He looked a little slower off the line of scrimmage. We also have to remember Carson Wentz, new quarterback with a new cadence. Chris Oladokun, new quarterback with a new cadence. So he's trying to get used to all this stuff at once while returning from multiple injuries. But he has shown enough to me that from a technical standpoint, he is by far the best left tackle technically that they have put out in the field this year, and that includes Joe Thuney. Thuney's been great, but everything he does is a jump set. He's trying to get on defensive ends quickly. The Chiefs have gone to such a quick passing attack, and part of it's because of Mahomes' injury. Part of it's because of the success, but I can't rule out that some of it is because they have a left tackle who doesn't feel comfortable trying to take deep sets and really block up the arc because he's a guard, and he's just not used to working in that much space. So, yeah, try DJ Humphries and see what happens is kind of like where my head is at right now. But be quick on the trigger to go back to Joe Thuney if it's absolutely blowing up the offense when it happens.
It's an interesting way of looking at it because if you go Joe Thuney and Caliendo, we don't know what it looks like to then have to go on the fly and say, DJ Humphries, you're in the game.
Yeah, I don't think you can make the switch then.
Yeah,
I don't think you can start with Thuney and go back because you're starting with the safe floor. At no point do I ever think that lineup will be so bad that you'll think that is costing you the game.
Yeah.
Maybe it's limiting what you can do, but it won't be costing you the game. And so there's no way to ever go with the change the other direction. Whereas if you go chase the ceiling of DJ Humphries and it doesn't work, you can fall back to a safer floor if you need to.
So it sounds like you're on the side of DJ Humphries starts for you against whoever they go up against in the divisional round.
I think so. I think you got to give it a go and just see what it looks like. And you can still help him by going with all that quick passing game. You still lean into that a bunch. But when you do want to call up some of those vertical shots, you now have a actual offensive tackle who's used to setting 5-7 yards deep, blocking all the way up to 9 yards and up the arc. Because that's just something that Joe Thuney hasn't had to do very often while playing guard. And I do think I've noticed since he stepped in there, they have kind of limited some of their deeper drop back stuff. And with a quarterback like Mahomes, who, especially when things aren't going perfect, he does tend to get a little deeper in the pocket. So I just wonder if, that is a limitation in terms of the play calling and the play design that they have going into a game that might, have impacted them. And clearly it hasn't messed with their offensive output, but I just do wonder from a play calling perspective if that has crept up in some of the meeting rooms because it has looked a little different.
Yeah, and the time to throw and what they've done against the Houston Texans and Pittsburgh Steelers has been different with Joe Thuney at left tackle than it was with Wanya Morris or even the game against the Chargers that DJ Humphries played. So if DJ Humphries is out there and they take sort of that same approach, a lot more play action, quicker throws, schemed to help on the left side if need be, then maybe DJ Humphries looks really good. And then maybe they can get back to running the ball a little bit more and even some rest with some of these players as well. Matt Lane, KC Sports Network, the KC Laboratory Podcast. Matt, is there a preferred and least preferred matchup in the divisional round for you?
The preferred is the Steelers. I don't think that team has a lot of juice left. I think they have run that well dry this year. And if the Chiefs were to play the Steelers, that would mean Tomlin emptied his entire bag of magic pixie dust and voodoo and whatever else to beat the Ravens. There's just going to be nothing left at that point. So the Steelers would be preferred matchup. After that, it'd probably be the Texans. I don't – out of the matchups the Chiefs can realistically or actually see, which would be, not the Bills, not the Ravens, I don't know if playing another AFC West team again sounds like fun. Yeah. Having to play a team 3 times in 1 year is already, difficult enough and annoying enough. But 2, both of those teams played the Chiefs kind of close. They made it very difficult on the Chiefs, whereas if you look at the Texans or the Steelers games, things looked a lot easier. Things looked a lot cleaner for the Chiefs, not having that same level of familiarity on the other side and everything. So it would kind of be that order of Steelers, Texans, and then I'd probably say I'd rather play the Broncos than the Chargers, just based on coming off of that game most recently and it being Bo Nix versus Justin Herbert.
Yeah, and if they play the Broncos, then Sean Payton would have probably thrown the entire bag at the Bills, and so you'd have a better idea of what to prepare for. Bo Nix is a rookie quarterback, but you'd also have Bo Nix, a rookie quarterback that just went to Buffalo and won. So kind of like, he doesn't know what he doesn't know at this point. You don't know that this is the playoffs. You're supposed to be playing a different level of football, or you don't know how, close the margin is to then your season just being over. You're just enjoying it. We're not even supposed to be here. Now we went to Buffalo and won. This is fun. Maybe a little bit like the Bengals a few years ago when they ended up going to the Super Bowl of no, Jamar Chase is a rookie and look how good they're going to be. And hey, they're a year early and this is kind of fun. They're going on the road and winning and finding ways to eke these games out. They're going to be around for a while. And they were around for one more year. That was really it. So I do think that'll be an interesting aspect of it. Who do you think they will play in the divisional round?
I think they will end up playing the Houston Texans. I'm kind of going through it. I think the Broncos will give the Bills a test, but I do think it'll come down to Josh Allen is just the better quarterback in that game, so that nets them to win. I think the Ravens take care of the Steelers. And while on a matchup on paper, it makes more sense to go with the Chargers than the Texans, I'm just going full vibes on that one. The Texans have been hearing that they are done, that they can't win for the entire last month. I think they come out with one last gasp of air and can take down the Chargers, which then would send them to Kansas City. And I think that's a pretty good matchup, as we kind of talked about.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I've been going back and forth on the Houston Texans and Chargers, and at first blush, it was like, no, I'm taking the Chargers. But I feel like now, Matt, that seems to be like everybody's taking the Chargers.
Exactly.
And that would worry me for a team that's playing a home game and is a home dog and won their division and has some players and a coach that's pretty tough as to look at the guys and go, you guys aren't good enough. We're just going to go out here and lose to the Chargers because everybody has the Chargers already advancing. In fact, they're talking about Chiefs and Chargers matchup in the divisional round. So, yeah, you don't need extra motivation, but there ain't nothing wrong with using it. So.
Right, and that's where my head has kind of gone with. The Chargers are playing the better football down the stretch, and it's just a lot of things are mounting up that it seems like on paper the Chargers win that game. And I think I am trusting that Houston Texans staff to be able to use that in the right way. They did rest some guys this final week, so they have people that have probably been somewhat preparing for a matchup that they might see. And I think the Texans playing the Chargers was most likely. They kind of knew that going into their game in case, unless crazy stuff happens. So I just think that they might have a little something ready for this game. We saw it last year with rookie C.J. Stroud. They go in and they get that big win in the first round before it all kind of fell apart. I think we might see it again, only this year it's just kind of like they rally around the you guys are done, you guys can't possibly do anything else kind of mantra with a home playoff game, which is a big part of it.
I do wonder, too, Matt, that that Tank Dell injury, we saw the impact on the field with the players. Before the Tennessee Titans game, when Tank Dell caught the ball, the offense only picked up 3 more points over the next 2 weeks, or in the next 2 games, that against the rest of the Chiefs and then the Ravens. They didn't score. They got a safety. So offense got shut out. And I wonder, you play 4 days later after that injury to Tank Dell, are you still reeling? You don't have a whole lot of time to sort of think about it. You don't have a whole lot of time to get ready for the Ravens without Tank Dell. Then you got a little bit more time. You're resting some guys. You're starting to realize what the reality is. And their first drive, they kept their starters in to see what they can do. They drove down the field, scored a touchdown against the Titans, took them out of the game. So maybe heading into the playoffs now, the vibes of, hey, we know what our team is. Tank's now back around, and we're seeing him and all that stuff. And so, now we can just move forward and play football and not be shell-shocked of what happened with Tank Dell. And then 4 days later, we got to play another football game.
And that's what I'm leading to now. Will I be surprised if the Chargers come out and win because they have been such a good coach team that have a really good quarterback and this defense plays really physical? No, I won't be surprised at all. I expect it to be a very good game. I have talked myself into kind of like you were just saying. There is this path where the Texans use the extra little bit of motivation to get guys going. They have kind of figured something out that this team, and there is something to say, in my opinion, about a football team going through some kind of adversity of losing a player or having to change something structurally later in the season, and then their opponent not really knowing how to handle it. Like, the Chargers don't have a great read on what the Texans' offense is going to look like now without Tank Dell. Who are they emphasizing? What are they focusing on? Who are they running the offense through besides Nico Collins? This is all new, and the Texans have now had a couple weeks to try to figure that out. They had the big, long break from Christmas to the Titans game. They showed that first drive what they can do. Now they have another week. I just wonder if they have some stuff that the Chargers might not be ready for, come playoff time.
Last one for you real quick. Mike Borgonzi interviewed with the Jets yesterday. Matt Nagy interviewed with the Jets yesterday. There are now 3 teams that have requested Steve Spagnuolo, the Jets, the Raiders, and then today, about an hour ago, we get news that the Jags have requested an interview with Steve Spagnuolo. So I ask you, all 3, 0, 1, or 2, how many of those 3 guys are back with the Chiefs next year? Spags, Nags, and Bargonzes. That doesn't really rhyme.
At least one will be back with the Chiefs. I don't really see an avenue for Matt Nagy getting hired this cycle based on what we have seen out of the Chiefs offense and how his last run as a head coach went. So I don't really see that as being a realistic option. It does feel like there's a couple teams around the NFL, and some of these ones that he's interviewed with, Spags being a veteran defensive-minded coach, is something that some teams are leaning into right now. So I can definitely think this would be a pretty good year for him to go ahead and snag one. And I'm not tapped in enough in the front offices to know. I have heard from people that Borgonzi is a good candidate. So, I wouldn't be surprised if he is hired as a GM either.
All right, we'll see what happens. Matt Lane, KC Sports Network, KC Laboratory Podcast. Matt, enjoy a stress-free weekend of football. We'll talk to you in a couple weeks, bud.
Thank you, guys. I can't even say go Chiefs because there's no one in their plan.
Right. Go football.
Go football.
Thanks, brother. There's Matt Lane. Great stuff from him, as always, and talking some Chiefs football. And, yeah, the last game that it really felt of consequence was the Bills. It was a while ago, and now it's another week of just sort of sitting around and watching other teams play. But, yeah, he thinks he's predicting that the Chiefs will play the Texans in the divisional round, that Buffalo will take care of business, the Baltimore Ravens will take care of business. And he said he's playing the vibes part of the
So he's
Texans.
going chalk then.
Yeah, but he's going rock chalk. The rock chalk team.
This is the every month a wager. Well, here's my every month a wager. I think
that was the rock chalk team. He's going chalk.
Yeah, he's going chalk, and I'm going every month a wager with this one. I think that one of the two big upsets will happen. Either the Steelers beat the Ravens.
Ooh, wow.
Or the Broncos will be the Bills. I think one. I don't know which one.
Mm-hmm.
But if you told me which one to pick, I'd pick the Steelers. But I think one of those two teams will win that game.
Okay.
No, you guys are both just shaking your head, just very stoic.
I'm not on board with that.
My bold prediction was going to be that it's next week and it'll be AFC West and Baltimore remaining on the AFC side. That's my
interesting.
bold
Wow,
prediction.
so you're
Chargers,
going
Chiefs,
you're going
Chargers,
Broncos.
Baltimore.
So you agree then with
Chiefs,
me?
Broncos.
You're saying Steelers over Baltimore.
No, I said one of the two though.
Oh yeah.
One of the
I'm
two,
saying
9
the
point
only one.
dogs.
Yeah, Dylan's saying Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers, Ravens.
Yeah, he's getting more specific than I am. I said one of the two, and he goes, yeah, I like it.
Everyone's flirting with the Broncos over the Bills, and I'm. Who would I be as the original Sean Payton guy if I didn't jump on that and say that he's gonna? I think that you're right, and I agree that there's a little bit to you guys got let in, and you're just
interesting
coming here to be the.
Well, if so, you wouldn't play this, but I heard Steven talking about with DraftKings this morning that his parlay that he's been talking about, moneyline parlay, is Chargers, Ravens, Bills. That he's going moneyline parlay. It's like plus 140 or something. And then he was going back and forth on Chargers and Texans because I think it might have been Kaplan was like, oh, I don't know about the Chargers and Texans. I kind of like, and he's like, okay, well, if I do the Texans, it's even more. If you are fully confident that the Bills and Ravens are going to win, then you could put $100 on a parlay of Bills, Ravens, Chargers, and then $100 on a parlay of Bills, Ravens, Texans, and you're going to come out with at least a $40 profit. You can win $140 if the Chargers win. You win $250 if the Texans win. So you can go anywhere from $40 to $150 depending on that one game only. If you are supremely, or you can lose $200 if the Bills or Ravens end up losing. But if you're supremely confident that nope, the Bills are going to take care of business, the Ravens are going to take care of business, but I'm going back and forth on the Chargers and Texans, well then play that parlay.
Where I'm at is, and just kind of to your point here, Dylan, the Broncos defense is one of, if not the best in the NFL, the way they've been playing.
Yeah.
The Bills defense is basically middle of the pack. Now, offensive
Middle of the pack.
Offense is obviously very different, but we see a lot of times defensive teams can thrive in the playoff environment.
Yeah.
I wasn't bold enough to do that, Dylan. That's why I think Steelers have a really good chance against the Ravens, because I think the Steelers defense can play some really good football.
Zay Flowers had 5 catches, 100 yards against the Steelers in that win. And by the way, that was, 17-17 in late in third quarter?
Yep.
And so Zay Flowers was really good.
They just held the Bengals, who everyone was lauding their offense, to 19.
That's a great point.
But no one's talking about that.
Good point. No, because they're talking about the Chiefs holding the Broncos to 38. The Chiefs holding themselves to 0. Yeah. It's really
so, again, I think I think of the underdogs, I think the Steelers are a bad team. The worst playoff team. But I think they're good.
Yeah, playing the worst right
but
now.
I think that they are a semi-matchup issue for the Ravens.
It's why our 3 and 4 preferred matchup of the 4 teams were both divisional games. I'd rather not play it. While I think the Texans and the Steelers matchup issues anyway, but I'd rather not play another divisional game. You've played those teams. You got 4 games against those 2 teams that you've played this year. I'd rather play the Texans or certainly the Steelers. But you're talking about the Broncos and playing the best defense. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. And since Week 13, we'll tell you about a team that in 6 different categories since week 13 has ranked as number 1 defense in the NFL since week 13 in 6 different categories. I'll tell you about that, and maybe it changes things, maybe it doesn't. We'll do that coming up next. This is with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels. So I talked about at the break a team that defensively, since week 13, has been number one in 6 different categories. Scoring defense since week 13, they're number one. Total defense, number one. Passing defense, number one. Third down percentage, number one. Red zone defense, number one. And opponent passer rating, number one in that time since week 13.
Can I take a guess?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I don't think it's the Chiefs because they got 38 in week 18.
It is not the Chiefs. Yeah, that's right.
So
which, by the way, the foolishness of people going, the Chiefs are +4 against playoff teams. Like, look at all these teams in the playoffs. Chiefs are only +4 in their games against playoff teams. Well, the Broncos are in the playoffs. They were -38 in that game.
Is it AFC or NFC?
It's an AFC team.
Okay. Because I was going to say potential Eagles, but I didn't think so. I think it's Denver.
It's not. Let me throw this at you. Maybe this will help you. Weeks 1 through 10, scoring defense 25th, total defense 27th, pass defense 32nd, third down percentage 30th, red zone defense 20th, opponent passer rating 26th. Those are around number one now.
Ravens were really bad to start the season, so I guess I'll go Ravens.
Ravens. That's the pick. The Ravens since week 13 are number one defensively in a lot of those categories. Now, some of that is maybe opponent driven, but also Kyle Hamilton moving to safety. That has certainly helped them out. It reminds me a little bit, and I hope this isn't the case.
So they played Eagles,
Giants,
Steelers, Texans, Browns.
It reminds me a little bit of the 2019 Chiefs when they were pretty rough throughout the first half.
Yeah.
And then they played the Titans, and they lost 35-32, and Tyrann Mathieu said, this is it, it's not going to happen again. It's not going to happen again. This is the moment now where we go and prove how good of a defense we are. Spag's first year, and Spagnuolo talked about, it's taken some time for these guys to get used to the offense. So it's going to be something to where we knew it was going to take some time. And then in 2019, after that Tennessee Titans game, the Chiefs' defense was completely different. They gave up 17 points, 9 points, 16, 3, 3, 21, 21, 24, and 20 on their way to winning a Super Bowl. So, yes, it does remind me of that a little bit. The Chiefs, or let's just go from the Baltimore Ravens standpoint. This is just points scored in offense. So I'm not doing DVOA or EPA or anything like that.
Sure.
So just where they rank in points scored as an offense this year.
I'd say first.
No, I mean not the Ravens, but the offenses they've played in these 5 games, right? So they played Philadelphia. Philadelphia's 7th. The Giants are 31st. The Steelers are 16th. The Texans are 19th, and the Browns are 32nd. So on one hand, you go, okay, a little opponent, specific little opponent driven there. But then I went back and looked at the Chiefs in the 6 games they played. They played 2 against the Chargers. So they played the Chargers. They were 21st. They played the Raiders, 24th. They then played the Patriots, 7th. They played the Broncos, 28th. They played the Bears, 29th, and the Chargers again, 21st. So they played 21, 24, 7, 28, 29, 21 in scoring defense. And not a one of us were talking about the way the defense was playing.
Sure.
Well, yeah, but look at the offense they're playing against.
Sure.
We were just excited to see the defense playing like that because there were other offenses they played earlier that they weren't having as much success against. And then they turn it around. It's like, this defense is different. And then, the Texans go out there and score 31 points, but we know 24 of those were in the first, 16 minutes of the game. It was a little different. So they turned it around then. The Ravens have actually played better overall offenses in this 5-game stretch for them than the Chiefs did then. So I said it reminds me a little bit of an awesome offense that the defense has been the issue, and then somewhere along the way the defense just figured it out and started clicking.
I guess for me, I have no questions about the Ravens in the regular season.
Yes.
Again, that's what it comes down to, all these numbers.
And that Chiefs team was coming off an AFC Championship game lost at home.
Yeah, and again, I keep going back to it because Andy Reid had the same notion, which until you get it done, you can't win the big one. But Lamar has that. And
to the evil empire. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
That AFC Championship lost at home to the evil empire even.
Yeah, they lost. Ravens lost last year at home to the evil empire of today in the Kansas City Chiefs. And can you get over the Patriots hump? Can you get over the Chiefs hump? I hope it's not history repeating itself, that it wouldn't be the Chiefs losing at home to the Baltimore Ravens.
I hope it's last year's history repeating itself where the Chiefs beat the Ravens.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. I would love for that to happen. I just simply tweeted out, this reminds me a little bit of 2019 when so much of that narrative and that conversation about the Chiefs late in the season was, so what happened from them going 6-4 to not losing a game again? Defense was just different. They were just different. Spags was able to use more exotic things. The guys knew where they were supposed to be more. And that team went and played awesome football. And then the next year they started out, 14-2? I think 14-1 with their starters, because that last game of the year they rested and lost. Weird. Are you allowed to do that?
I don't know.
Only if you're scared of other
professional
athletes.
Yeah, they lost to the Chargers 38-21 in week, that was week 17 because only 16 games in 2020. But they were 14-1. So with the 3 games they won the previous year in the playoffs to go and win the Super Bowl, and the final 6 games they played, that's 9, they went 23-1 with their starters.
Pretty good.
And then, of course, 25-1 before they played the Bucs.
Yeah.
When it was, oh, wow, this defense has figured it out, along with this amazing offense now. Again, I hope that's not the case with the Ravens, but we've talked about the Ravens. What's the issue? Defense, they can't stop anybody. Offense, they can score.
Through the air. They've been good on the ground all year long.
But they can't stop anybody through the air. And they've been stopping people through the air. Now, again, maybe
now Lamar has no excuse.
Yeah, agreed. Maybe there's more context to it. Well, Giants suck. Well, Steelers and Pickens and all of that stuff. Well, Houston, they were still reeling from Tank Dell. Cleveland, they're Cleveland. Philadelphia, they were running the heck out of the football. Like, okay, yeah, so they're really good at these passing numbers in these last 5 games, but are they going up against teams that are really centered around passing the football? Okay, maybe not. But did we add and dive that deep into the Chiefs and their turnaround in 2019? I don't know. We'll see what happens. Chiefs also had the bye week and played at home those next 2 weeks. Ravens don't have a bye week, and they got to go on the road. So is that enough to overcome?
What game are you saying is a turnaround for the Ravens?
Ravens was after that
Bucks?
the game before Philly. The game before the Eagles that they played. Oh, Chargers.
Chargers, okay.
They won 30-23. And then since then, even in the loss to the Eagles, giving up 24 points, they 24, 14, 17, 2, and 10. But even against the Eagles and how they did against the pass in that game, that's since week 13. That's what they've been doing. We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. But I still went Buffalo over Baltimore in the AFC as the number 2 team in the AFC. Part of that is going on the road. But also part of it is Lamar. Lamar's a factor here. Lamar is a part of the conversation here. He's got to prove that he's not just a guy that when it gets to the playoffs, he is closer to a pumpkin than he is a chariot. He is closer to some slip-on, house slippers to a ruby slipper or a ruby shoe, whatever it was. You're much closer to that in the playoffs. He's closer to Mitchell Trubisky in the playoffs than he is Patrick Mahomes.
Which Trubisky? The Pro Bowl Trubisky or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That's my answer. I am staying with my answer. Yes, that's my answer.
I guess it's also because we've seen Josh Allen have a great game in the playoffs.
Yeah, even in a losing effort, he was amazing against the Chiefs.
I mean,
in
it
the
was
13-second game.
You're just like, okay, he can do it. You need to see Lamar do it against a really good playoff team.
I'd be more worried if this was the Bills' defense is now shutting down everybody.
Yes.
Because I do trust Josh Allen in the playoffs way more than I do Lamar Jackson right now.
Agreed.
We'll take a timeout, come back, more Zone next. All right, coming up in a little over an hour, we got some sports or leisure coming your way. We'll hear from Travis Kelce weighing in on Tony Gonzalez and what he meant to him, but I also want to look at it from how it affects today's Chiefs team / organization / personnel. We'll do that in a little bit as well. The difference in the last couple of games for the Chiefs, we've talked with Matt Lane about that, Cynthia, Adam Teicher, the things we've seen, Ryan Tracy yesterday about what's going on with the Chiefs the last couple of games, not the Broncos, but the Texans and Steelers, why they've been so good. Sam McDowell has a couple of stats that he has presented at the Kansas City Star that I want to get into that I think is really interesting. And then I want to compare Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow in the playoffs. Like, we know Lamar Jackson's record isn't great. How are their performances there? We know Joe Burrow's record is awesome. He's 5-2 in the postseason. My God. But how's he performing compared to the regular season? Josh Allen, what he's done in the postseason. So I kind of want to look at that, and then that'll lead us into picking who would be our quarterback if we can't have Patrick Mahomes. The other 13 teams, the other 13 quarterbacks, who are we taking for our team if Mahomes is not the quarterback that you can choose? Obviously, we would all choose Patrick Mahomes because we all have brains and eyes. So Mahomes would be the pick. What
Trent
happens
Dilfer.
after that? You know, Brad Johnson. Tell me, like, would you have Brad Johnson or Josh Allen? Because I know one's walking around with a ring. That's what I'm saying. So, Brad Johnson, I think, has 2 because he's married. Josh Allen has none.
Wow. Wait, didn't he get married to what's her
He's
name?
got his fiance, though. Yeah, she's got a ring. She's got more rings than he does.
Wow.
Sorry about that. I like Josh Allen. I don't know why I did that. That's
rude.
Josh Allen, yeah, I like Josh. I think he's the second best quarterback in the NFL.
Agreed. I've been saying that for like 3 years.
Oh, wow. How about that? You were all over it.
4 years. I don't know. No one ever agreed
5
to
years.
it.
I said it in 2016. This Josh Allen guy
I
at Wyoming.
said it with him in Wyoming, yeah.
This Josh Allen from this high school, and I think he can grow into being the second best quarterback in the NFL. Behind Brady? No, behind the kid that's at White House High School right now. Pat Mahomes' son? Yeah, that kid.
He's a baseball player, right?
Isn't he going to play baseball? Yeah, we'll see. He's going to Texas Tech, so I think he's going to Texas Tech. He's got some scholarships at different places. We'll see what he ends up. But I think those two guys will be 1 and 2. So,
And I think Jamarcus Russell's going to figure it out.
I've got an eye for talent, real eye for talent. So you see those guys, you just see it. You know it. You know it when you see it, right? 913-912-4810 is the text line to join us, be a part of the show, part of the conversation. Again, an hour from now, we got some sports or leisure that we will get into. But on the other side, we will get into that quarterback comparison. Notre Dame, Penn State tonight right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. And the Athletic has their all-rookie team out. So maybe a quick little nugget on the all-rookie team. So 913-912-4810. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll get into some quarterback conversation. On the other side, again, the news that came down in the last hour, Steve Spagnuolo. The Jags have now requested an interview with Spags, so that is job number 3. Job opening number 3, team number 3, franchise number 3 that has requested an interview with Steve Spagnuolo, the Jets, the Raiders, and the Jags. So he now has 3 different teams he'll be interviewing with. So we'll see if they retain Spags. And if another team is just simply saying, this guy's really awesome defensive coordinator, do we think he's our next coach, or we are leaving no stone unturned? Could be part of it as well. More Zone next.
Golf track.
Golf
baby.
track. If you're going to be looking it up, Golf TRK, but golf track, golftrk.com is where you can go and check out the different locations. But the grand opening location over on Strangline Road, essentially I-35 on 119th Street. And Golf Track will be there, brand new indoor golf facility, their brand new location in South Overland Park. They've got the original one in Lenexa on 161st Street. But the TrackMan simulator technology that the pros use.
It's incredible, man.
Yeah. Instant feedback, improve your swing, do all that stuff. Have you done the TrackMan before?
Oh, yeah, I've been going there a good amount.
Bragger.
Well, I love it.
They know me.
I have an account.
You have a membership there?
I do have a membership there.
You're a member at how many country clubs and Golf Track? Okay.
2 total, I guess, now with Golf Track.
No,
indoor,
sense.
outdoor, basically. You know,
one indoor, one outdoor. Right now, you would want to use the outdoor unless you're a badass. Or I mean, in the indoor, unless you're a badass.
But the Golf Track, it's really cool. Again, Golf TRK, but it tells you so many different things that can help you work on your swing. Like I find out that I really, instead of de-lofting, which is what a lot of people try and do, right? You want to hit your 7-iron, you want to have that piercing ball flight. Well, I've always been a guy that almost balloons. So I turn my 7-iron into a 9-iron, but it shows you.
Wait till you get older and you're not burning as many calories, bud.
Yeah, well, it shows you where you're hitting everything. It's very in-depth, extremely cool, fascinating, instant feedback. You can play all these different courses. Me and Paul in sales, we go sometimes to play a little 9-hole.
Oh, interesting. Good for you. No, I'm gonna check my text to see for see the invite that I probably missed.
Dylan's been on there.
Sterling.
You can play about 9 holes in an hour.
Hey,
so if you want to go over your
weather.
lunch break and play, it's a really, really cool.
Seeing these different texts from Sterling. I'm out. I'm sick.
They also have the original one, Lenexa, they have a cool putting green as well that shows you, like in real time, what you're doing and where you're hitting your line and all this stuff. Really interesting. They have
a lot of geometry, it looks like, for that putting green.
Costs. But it really, really cool. Yeah, this is the South OP location they are doing. So if you want to come out, I believe 11 to 3 is
11 to 3 is the grand opening. We'll be there
from 10 to 2.
From 10 to 2.
But they'll have food. They'll have raffles for memberships. They'll be giving away a Scotty Cameron putter.
That's right.
So if you're looking at potentially wanting a new putter, I would recommend stopping by. And Scotty Cameron.
Yeah,
I want to throw myself in there. I want to say, hey,
you're not
you're
not eligible to win.
I'm also lefty,
Well,
so I'm not eligible for multiple reasons.
Just turn that thing around.
Yeah, good
I
call.
can make that thing a lefty putter real quick. I got the tools. Let me tell you. We figure that out. So the Scotty Cameron putter will be given away. Month's membership, they'll be giving away, raffling there as well. But again, food, other things going on there. But the grand opening at the South Overland Park location will be there tomorrow from 10 to 2. They are open from 11 to 3 as their grand opening when they're having this fun event for everybody to be up there. You can go to golftrk.com and check it out and sign up to get a membership and to see all of the technology that they have that, you know, if you're going to show up tomorrow and you've never experienced it or have seen it, check out the videos and you see
really cool
kind of what you're going into. And the TrackMan, you know, the ball flight, the spin, all of that stuff that you can sort of
shows
have
you
a pro or have a coach without having a coach, you know, there.
It won't fix your swing, but it'll
It'll
show
tell you
you
what's wrong with it.
what's wrong with your swing.
Yeah, it's kind of like in baseball.
Or what you're doing right with your swing, too, as far as, you know, if you're like, do I need to switch my swing up? But you're looking at the smash factor, you're looking at all these different intricate parts. You're like, you know what? I don't care if I swing and my swing looks like Jim Furyk. I'm going to take it because at contact, it's good.
I would love for the results to look like Jim Furyk. I don't care what the swing looks like if the results can be that. So just like the pitch tracks, when you can see the spin rate and all of that stuff and the movement and everything. So it's going to be cool there tomorrow. Golf Track will be there. Golftrk.com. You can check it out. My son had pitching lessons last night at the baseball lab. So
knuckleballs only?
He's doing well, I'm trying to teach him the knuckleball. Come on, man. Protect your arm and set yourself apart from everybody else. And so he's at the baseball lab doing going through a winter pitching program. So very excited about that. 913-912-4810. So he actually has done the pitch tracks machine. So he had he was able to, with this program, see like spin rate, 2-seam, 4-seam.
How hard's he throwing?
He's up about 92, but he's only in 3rd grade, so you can't expect him to hit triple digits
No, not yet.
You know what I mean? So he's right below 50. And
I'm
he wants
taking
to
him
get to like
yard,
52
baby.
or 50. Okay.
I'm taking your kid to right field.
As a 9-year-old, okay, cool.
Guarantee. Dylan,
so.
where you gonna pull or go oppo against that?
You gonna go oppo or pull?
I don't know. I don't know if I can catch up. I mean, that's
Yeah, but
pretty good. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty good.
he doesn't throw.
Probably faster than I throw.
He doesn't throw a
Definitely.
changeup like an actual changeup. He'll have a 4-seam fastball grip, but then every once in a while he just won't throw it hard, and it'll look like a changeup because people will be way out in front and swing. It's like, you know what? It's effective. Do whatever you got to do, man. It doesn't look great because
It's an
sort
art.
of lobbing it in there.
I don't know why pitchers
sometimes.
don't do that more often, which
Yeah.
is change speeds on their fastball by just
Jared
taking
Weaver,
some off.
baby.
Yeah.
Greinke always did that, man. Greinke was
Grinky, Weaver,
the greatest.
Hendricks and
Jimmy.
Kyle.
Yeah.
boom, yeah, Kyle Hendricks, the
Yeah.
Cubs pitcher.
The great line and answer that Zach Greinke told Seren down in spring training when Seren was asking him, hey, how many different pitches do you throw? Because it's like, curve, and I can put the knuckle on the curve, or I can throw the circle change, or I've got this other. I can cut the fastball. Like, you got all these different pitches, and his answer to Seren was, "Well, I've thrown a pitch at like 68 miles an hour, and I've thrown one at like 101, so I guess like a million." He was thinking, how many different pitches? Well, I can throw a 70-mile-per-hour fastball, 71-mile-per-hour four-seam, 72-mile-per-hour four-seam, 73-mile-per-hour four-seam. I can throw a 70-mile-per-hour two-seam, a 71-mile-per-hour two-seam. Like, the question was, how many different pitches do you have?
He's a very literal man.
The answer is just amazing. Because he also, in that same interview, I think, is when, this is how long ago it was, when Jennifer Aniston and, who was she dating?
The guy from Friends.
No, she was not dating a guy from Friends. I was in. No, it's Fight Club. Jeez Louise. What, it's a great Brad Pitt. So it was Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt. And he was like.
I thought it was Brangelina.
No. That would be Angelina Jolie. But he was like a big fan of that relationship. So he was talking about his sister called him when they broke up. And he was like, I was driving down the road and she called me and I was like, I started screaming, no, and pounding my steering wheel that they broke up. Like, Zach is a different cat, man. He's a different cat.
Jennifer Aniston's dated Brad Pitt and also like the lead singer of Counting Crows.
Okay.
Have you seen the lead singer of Counting Crows?
Has anybody?
Look it up, and you'll be saying, "Wow." Don't know how.
Well, I mean, people are attracted to different things. I mean, there are different things that can attract you to somebody. Sterling is not all about superficial things, okay?
Yeah, but
maybe she went superficial with Brad Pitt, and then she's like, you know what? Let me go a little bit deeper. Let me see if I have a deeper connection with this artist.
But look at that guy.
This guy's in touch with his emotions. Yeah, that guy looks like he's ready to rock. Brad Pitt's walking around with always like a sucker or gum in his mouth, so his jawline looks great. That guy looks like he's just ready
Is
to party.
that how you get a good jawline?
Well, he's already got one.
But how do you get it?
He just makes sure he emphasizes that and accentuates it with always sort of chewing in movies. If you'll notice, a lot of the scenes Brad Pitt is in, he's chewing something gum.
I don't
he's got like a sucker
I
or
don't
something.
typically notice.
I didn't notice it either until
Brad Pitt
I didn't notice it either until I heard
jaw.
about it. Oh, dude, its jawline is so. I mean, not an ounce.
I love
of fat on it.
Dravetta sent the exact picture I was thinking.
That's
of.
right.
That's great.
This is the exact picture there.
Thanks, Dravetta.
All right, 913-912-4810. So all that to say we'll be at Golf Track tomorrow there at Strangline Road South, Overland Park. Our location from 10 to 2. They are open, grand opening tomorrow, 11 to 3, with some food and giving away the putter and also giving away the month's membership in a raffle that is tomorrow. Let's look at some of these quarterbacks in the postseason. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow. So I looked at regular season and playoffs to compare the two, to see what they've improved on and gotten worse at from regular season to playoffs. Because typically you're not supposed to improve in the playoffs in your play. Because you're playing every single game against a, wait for it, playoff team. Okay? So who gets better in different categories? I looked at winning percentage, completion percentage, the average yards per game, yards per attempt, touchdowns, interceptions, quarterback rating. I threw in the rushing yards as well, and then sort of the total of all of that. Then I also looked at the what they did in losses, average score in all of those games. And so I looked at Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow. There are 14 categories that I looked at. And of the 14 categories, Patrick Mahomes from regular season to playoffs improves in 12 of the 14 categories. The only of those 14 that he does not improve from regular season to postseason is average yards passing per game goes from 289 to 285. He drops 4. So technically that's not an improvement. And yards per attempt in the regular season in his career 7.8, postseason is 7.64. Those are the only two areas that Patrick Mahomes, that includes rush yards per game and yards per rush, and then rushing touchdowns per game, fumbles lost per game, like all of those, rushing touchdowns higher, fumbles lost lower, total yards higher, total touchdowns per game higher, total turnovers per game lower, completion percentage higher in the postseason, winning percentage. The man's he's got a 794 winning percentage in the regular season. And he has a better winning percentage in the playoffs.
It's absurd.
He's winning at an 830 clip in the playoffs. So we know that about Patrick Mahomes, right? We know he has elevated his game come playoff time. We've talked about it. It's been documented, all of that stuff. Well, the other 3 quarterbacks that he's compared to, let's look at them. Of the 14 categories for Josh Allen, he also improves in 12 of the 14. One of those being the same as Patrick Mahomes in yards per attempt. But that is so close that that difference is really not worth even talking. It's 7.3 to 7.2 in yards per attempt for Josh Allen from regular season to postseason. What he does not improve on is winning percentage. He wins at a 690 clip in the regular season. He's a 500 quarterback in the postseason. Now he's 5-2 against non-Chiefs teams in the postseason. So he's 5-2 against non-Patrick Mahomes teams. That's, it sucks for Josh Allen. Sometimes you go up against the premier player of your generation, and that's what Josh Allen is doing right now.
Patrick Mahomes is almost the player exclusively keeping Josh Allen from at least playing in Super Bowls.
Yeah.
While Lamar, not the case. It's pretty much just the playoffs in general that's keeping him from
Lamar's played Patrick one time.
The Super Bowl. Yeah.
And he lost in the postseason. He lost that one game. Joe Burrow, not in the postseason, but in these 14 categories, Joe Burrow improves in 6 of them. Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, 12. Joe Burrow, only 6. He has a higher winning percentage. He's 5-2 in the postseason. He's a 551 quarterback in the regular season. Some of that was rookie year when they were rebuilding from the number 1 pick, all of that stuff. But still, 5-2 in the postseason, improved on that. Interceptions per game goes down in the postseason, so he protects the football a little bit more. Rush yards per game and yards per rush goes up, so that's part of the, and then fumbles lost goes down. So that's part of his overall 6, is rush yards, yards per rush, and then the fumbles lost per game, right? Because in the playoffs, he has not lost a fumble. And in the regular season, he's lost 15 fumbles. So no matter what, it's going to go down because he's lost 0 fumbles in 7 games. 15 fumbles in 69 games.
That actually is pretty crazy that Patrick has only lost 13 fumbles
in his entire career.
How many more games has he played than Joe?
He has played 112, and Joe has played 69.
To put this in perspective...
Put it in perspective, please.
Patrick has won 51 more regular season games than Joe Burrow. He's lost 7 fewer games than Joe Burrow. 51 more wins, 7 fewer losses.
Let's look at Lamar. We ready for Lamar? Lamar wins at a 745 clip in the regular season. In the postseason, he's 2-4. So he's at a 333 winning percentage in the postseason. But of the 14 categories, Lamar improves on only 5 of them. 3 of the 5 are in the rushing category.
Which makes sense a little bit because I
he
think
rushes a little bit more.
All 4, so all 4 improve when running the football.
When running the football in the postseason.
Because
you're willing to do whatever it takes at that point to pick up a first down or run around or extend a play. But Lamar declines in winning percentage. His completion percentage goes down 7 points. Yards per attempt drops a full yard. Regular season is at 7.8. Postseason is at 6.8. It drops a full yard in the postseason yards per attempt. Touchdowns per game drops by almost 1 touchdown per game. Interceptions per game increases by almost a half. Quarterback rating goes down 26 points. Mahomes' quarterback rating goes up 3.7 points. Josh Allen's quarterback rating, by the way, goes up 6.6 points. Joe Burrow's rating drops 7.4 points from regular season to the playoffs. And Lamar Jackson drops 26 points in the postseason.
I want to pull this up because you have the rating right there. I want to see where 75 ranks.
A 75 quarterback rating like this year?
That's Drew Lock.
Who's got a 75 quarterback rating?
75.5, actually, so even slightly higher than
75.7.
Oh, so basically the exact same.
I mean, that's damn near identical.
So there you go. So for as far, again, passer rating's not always the best metric to use. I get that.
Yeah.
But Drew Lock is 48th of qualified quarterbacks this year at 75.5. That is what Lamar has been in the playoffs. That would be only better than Jacoby Brissett and Desmond Ridder. That is worse than guys like Mason Rudolph, Mac Jones, Jameis Winston, Gardner Minshew, Will Levis. Just to kind of put in perspective what happens to Lamar come playoff time.
Yeah. The Patrick Mahomes, his touchdowns and interceptions, every 5 games in the playoffs, Mahomes throws an extra touchdown and throws 1 fewer interception than he would in 5 games in the regular season. To really just say what Mahomes has done in the postseason. Every 5 games, he's added a touchdown and taken away an interception. Whereas some of these other quarterbacks, like Lamar Jackson, who has 6 touchdowns and 6 interceptions in the postseason, who has 3 touchdowns rushing and 3 fumbles lost in the postseason.
I think what really stands out in this one is we all know it. Lamar's been a playoff joker to this. Again, I'm not saying he will never get it done.
I just wanted to see it in these different categories.
You did a great job doing the research here. No, truthfully, you did. But Lamar is kind of what we expected, right? He has been that bad in the playoffs. Josh Allen
he's been pretty damn good.
Just can't get past the Chiefs.
Right,
but he's been pretty damn good. Not always his fault.
5-2, not playing Kansas City.
And then Joe Burrow is basically, again, being propped up because he's beaten Patrick 1 time in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that's more or less my takeaway. The biggest one that I think we learned is Joe Burrow more or less being propped up by the defense come playoff time and by 1 playoff win over Kansas City.
Joe Burrow's 1-2 in the playoffs when his defense gives up 20 or more points. He's 1-2. Now, that's 3 games. He's played 7. That means 4 of the games that he has won, his defense did not even give up 20 points.
Now, by the way, he's not bad in the playoffs. I'm not trying to say he's bad, but the narrative that he is this otherworldly, he's Joe Cool, he's super clutch, that narrative is false. And by you pulling the numbers, again, the NFL, the media, they want to push something because no one is Patrick's peer. But if you're going to push one, I have no idea why it's not Josh Allen in that Bills team when he has shown he is up. He does improve at least slightly come playoff time. While Joe Burrow, at least so far that we've seen, they have 1 game over KC, yes, as a team, but Joe, as the quarterback, has still gotten worse.
Burrow in the playoffs, touchdown to interception ratio is 2.25. Mahomes is 5-1. Mahomes in the playoffs, touchdown to interception is 5-1. 41 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Joe Burrow, 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He has half the interceptions already in 7 games that Mahomes does in 18 games that he has played. Now, to Josh Allen's credit, I will point this out as well. In the losses for these players, so the 3 losses for Mahomes, 5 for Josh Allen, 4 for Lamar, 2 for Joe Burrow, Josh Allen has put up the best numbers in the losses. He's got a 90 quarterback rating in the 5 losses. Josh Allen does. So you could say some of those losses aren't necessarily on him.
Sure. 13-second game, obviously, the one that comes to mind.
Right. But when we look at Joe Burrow, that it's he's 1-2 with when teams score 20 or more points. Lamar Jackson is 0-3 when the opposing team scores 20 or more points. Josh Allen is 2-4 when the opposing team scores 20 or more points. Patrick Mahomes is 11-3 when the opposing team scores 20 or more points. That is 3-9 3-9, Allen, Burrow, and Jackson are when the other team scores 20 or more points. They're 3-9. Mahomes is 11-3 when the defense is giving up 20 or more points. Oh, and by the way, Mahomes is 3-2 when the defense is giving up 30 or more points. He's 3-2 when he's got to score more than 30 to win the game.
That's absurd.
Yeah. Josh Allen's 1-2 when teams score 30 or more points. You can go ahead and guess the one of the losses that's there. That would be the Chiefs in the 13-second game, in which they lost that game, and he was remarkable in that game. And we had, 5 touchdowns? 5 touchdown passes, run the ball all over the place. He wasn't the reason they lost the game. Mahomes was a big reason as to why they won the game, because if we remember back, the Bills were the number 1 defense in the NFL going into that game. So Mahomes' numbers versus Allen's numbers aren't put into the correct perspective because Mahomes was playing the number 1 defense doing what he did in that particular game. But it sort of highlights that Lamar's play has been a big reason why the Ravens have lost these games. And Joe Burrow's play has sort of been just there while the Bengals are winning. The average score in the 7 games that Joe Burrow has played in the playoffs is 23-19. 23-19. Patrick Mahomes is 30-23. 23-19. 19 points his defense has given up on average in the 7 games in the postseason.
Well, you got to fire that DC, right?
You have to fire that DC. Joe Burrow is more propped up by his defense. Josh Allen has been propping his team up except for when he plays Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And Lamar Jackson has to figure it out because he has just not been good.
I just still can't get over that Patrick has 51 more wins than Joe Burrow and 7 fewer losses.
Yeah.
That is...
I mean, he's got a 794 winning percentage. Now, situations that they were drafted into are
100%. No, 100% different. But again, the national media likes to make it believe that these are on almost equal or level playing fields at this point, and the answer is clearly no.
Well,
because that doesn't count Jake Browning. Yeah. I mean, that's just Joe Burrow.
And by the way, you know how hard it is for Patrick Mahomes to improve on his numbers in the playoffs than what that man has done in the regular season?
Yeah.
Think about that. What Patrick Mahomes has done in the regular season, he's won 2 MVPs. And in the playoffs, he's better. He's better. And it's not a small sample size. He's played 18 games. It's 18 games worth of better than what his regular season numbers are.
What's interesting with Lamar, and he's been great on the ground in the playoffs, which is something to at least monitor because he runs more.
Yeah, except for the fumbles lost.
But yes, I wonder how much that's almost, is he scared to throw?
It's interesting. I didn't look at the attempts per game in the playoffs.
He averages 8 more yards because he went from 213 to 221 throwing, so it's not a drastic difference.
Yeah.
His percentage, though, goes way down.
Yes.
Is he just becoming a nervous?
Well, he threw 59 passes in his second playoff game against the Titans when they were the number 1 seed, remember?
Oh, and they lost
people
that
were going,
game, yeah.
Why did you attempt with Lamar? They lost 26-12?
Yeah.
They weren't getting blown out. It wasn't 24-0 like the Chiefs and Texans. They were trailing early, but Lamar went 31 of 59.
But does he get the yips throwing the football, and that's why he runs more?
Is he more worried about letting the ball go and just saying, I can do that? Because he averages 21 yards more per game on the ground in the playoffs than he does in the
again, not a ridiculously large sample size, so we're somewhat trying to extrapolate 6 games into a full season, a couple of years. But again, there's something to that when you go that 7.5% completion percentage is down.
Yeah.
Noticeable.
He's got a sub-70 quarterback rating in the losses. He completes 50% of his passes in the losses. He's got 4 touchdowns and 5 interceptions.
His legs
in
still
the 4
work.
losses. Right, but he's doing other things with the legs because he's picking up 71 yards. Although in the losses, he's got no rushing touchdowns and 3 fumbles lost. So he's got 8 total turnovers and 4 total touchdowns in the 4 losses. He's a big reason why they've lost games. Joe Burrow's defense is a big reason why they've won games. Patrick Mahomes is a massive reason why they have won games. And Josh Allen is a pretty big reason as well as to why they've won games. Because Josh Allen in his 10 games has actually faced more points per game on average than any other of these quarterbacks.
And even in his losses, Josh Allen really hasn't been the reason why.
He's got a 90 quarterback rating in his 5 losses.
He's pretty 7 touchdowns, 2 picks. pretty darn good.
Average points per game Josh Allen has gone up against in the 10 games he's played is 25. The other team scoring 25. Mahomes 23, Lamar Jackson 22, and Joe Burrow 19. I mean, Josh Allen has faced almost a touchdown more per game he's had to overcome than Joe Burrow in the playoffs. That leads us into, we can't have Mahomes in the playoffs, so who we taking of the other 13 quarterbacks? We do that next. 10 WHB. (913-912-4810) is the text line. Let's go through the quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes is not available for you to pick, so you've got to select a quarterback out of the other 13. We'll do our top 3. Why not? Just for S's and G's. We'll do our top 3 quarterbacks that we would choose in the postseason if we can't have Patrick Mahomes. All right, number 3. My number 3 quarterback is Jalen Hurts. He's played in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And was pretty damn good in that Super Bowl. I don't want Jalen Hurts concussed.
Yes.
But he's sort of, been there, done that. Out of the quarterbacks that are there, been there, done that. Who's your number 3, Sterling?
Patrick Mahomes. There's an L in that last name. It's him with a mustache.
That doesn't count.
Shoot. Okay.
That doesn't count.
Patrick Mahomes. No, mine's actually also Jalen Hurts.
Hurts. Okay.
I actually went from 8 to 1, so I have some just made the cuts. But Jalen Hurts is number 3.
I do extra work.
Same reasons you mentioned.
Yeah.
I trust Hurts. He did it in college. Has done it in the NFL. It's hard to remove quarterback from teams sometimes because we're doing not team. We're doing strictly which quarterback. But I do trust Jalen Hurts overall, and because he's I think a smart processor, good with his legs, good arm, but just I think he's a smart player as well. I like players who are smart come playoff time typically.
Who's your number 3?
Mine is Lamar.
Okay.
So I'm going to go Lamar Jackson, number 3. I really did put them in a vacuum. Like, I took the team away from every single player and kind of just ranked them based off if I put them on every team in the playoffs.
Yep.
How would I rank them
Interesting.
with every single team around them?
Love that.
I was actually going to ask after we did this exercise how far down the list you would get to before you would get to Lamar. I know Dylan's answer. Obviously, Lamar is not in my top 3 because that's why I would have to ask the question. Number 2 for me. Actually, you know what, Sterling, we'll start with you.
You're going to have a hot take, aren't you?
Who's your number 2?
Matt Stafford.
Okay.
Matt Stafford, he's won a Super Bowl. Trust that. Again,
Trust. Whoop, whoop.
It's hard because, I don't think the Rams are a great team. But if it's strictly quarterback, I guess I trust Matt Stafford. Because he's done in the playoffs. Again, we're not saying regular season. We're not saying regular season. We're saying playoffs. One game. I guess I trust Stafford the second most.
All right. Who's your number 2?
My number 2 is Jordan Love.
Whoa, okay.
Because I think as a 7 seed last year, they had a lead on San Francisco in the divisional round, and they, not just barely beat the Cowboys as a 2 seed. They beat them pretty bad.
Moment wasn't too big for him.
Yep, that's kind of exactly why.
It's a good call. I like that.
That's interesting.
I like that.
My number 2 is Josh Allen.
Oh, hot take artist. Here you go.
Josh Allen's my number 2 quarterback. Only because of who my number 1 is.
Stafford.
My number 1 is Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
Because he's won a Super Bowl, and in the playoffs, he's put up really good numbers. Like early in his career when he was losing playoff games, he lost 45 to 30 in a playoff game. And then he had pretty good defense behind him, and he goes and wins the Super Bowl. And he played well in that Super Bowl. His postseason quarterback rating is 102 in the playoffs. It's better than his regular season. And also, for whatever reason, Stafford, he's got 3 rushing touchdowns in his 8 games that he's played in the postseason as well. So that was kind of interesting, but only because he's been there, he's overcome it. I know he can make every throw. He led that final drive comeback against the Bengals in the postseason in which, they had to convert, 1 or 2 fourth downs? At least 1. But then there was also the 3rd and 8 that they converted by a penalty. But on that drive, they go down the field and they score a touchdown. They were trailing 20-16. I think he had 3 possessions between the field goal that put him down 20-16 because it was 20-13. They kick a field goal down 20-16. He has 3 possessions where they don't score, and 6 minutes left to go in the game. Here you go.
Yeah.
And he drove them down the field, and they win the game. Defense did their part against Joe Burrow.
Yes.
But they go and win the game. That's why I went Stafford, is just because I can't have Mahomes, so who's the only other quarterback that has a ring
Sure.
in this group? And also, who are the other quarterbacks that maybe have been there? It was Josh Allen and Matt Stafford, sort of 6 in one hand, half a dozen the other that I kept going back and forth on. But
So we have the same players in the top 3, just different. I have Allen 1, Stafford 2, Hurts 3.
We just flipped our 2. So you've got Allen number 1. Dylan, is Allen number 1 for you?
Yeah, Allen's 1 for me as well.
Allen number 1 for you. I like Dylan's list because it's different. And
I had Stafford and Hurts 4 or 5. Like
Okay.
if I went and ranked them all just so it was easier to make the list and I didn't forget anyone. But
well,
I
look
had,
at you.
Yeah, I did 8.
Oh, wow. I did 3. So
I like your Love. I feel like I have Jordan Love a little too low when I did it because I did Justin Herbert 8. I did Jordan Love 7, which I feel a little low about. Baker Mayfield 6. I'd actually, now that I see it, I'd probably put Love 6 and Baker 7.
I had 6 through 10 as interchangeable. When you go from Goff to Stroud, I feel like those are just toss-ups.
Wow, I disagree. Yeah, I have Goff 4, Lamar 5. I had Goff.
I think you're
4.
surrounding Goff with the Lions.
That's fair, but Goff. See that it was so hard to remove that though because Goff has been so efficient.
But you have to.
But he was
You have to
efficient
do
with
it.
the Rams.
Must.
So we've seen him. He had basically a couple bad years, but outside of 2 bad years, he was good with the Rams.
They started Wolford in a playoff game over him one time. So.
I get it, man. I'm just.
And he was healthy because he came in the game later in the game.
I just. And again, that was the hardest player for me to separate from team was Jared Goff. It was the hardest one to determine, but like, I think Jared Goff does and can do easy what Baker does. Like I do.
I agree.
and
It is
Jared
the hardest
Goff-
one to separate.
Jared Goff
I
has
agree.
also got there.
And
So
that was
he's
hard
played
as
in
well.
a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So what is it? Stafford, Hurts, Goff, Mahomes are the 4 quarterbacks in the playoffs that have played in a Super Bowl?
I did the coaches, but I didn't
Right.
do the quarterback.
Because Darnold hasn't. Baker hasn't. Jaden Daniels has never played in a Super Bowl. He's never even made the playoffs before. Jaden
Wow,
Daniels.
it's
Like this is.
crazy.
We'll see what he does.
Russ has played. And
Oh yeah,
won one.
Russ has a freaking Super Bowl. Jeez, Louise.
I guess-
That shows you how far down Russ was for me. Is that I wasn't even considering him even in my top 8. That he's so far down that I'm like Justin Fields and Russell. Like, oh yeah, Russ
He was
has
my
a Super
second
Bowl
to
ring.
last.
Yeah, he's dead last for me.
I
Right.
had Bo Nix last.
It's funny. There are 3 quarterbacks
Take
that
that
have
back.
won a Super Bowl. 2 of them would be my top 2 quarterbacks I would choose to take my team right now because I think everybody would choose Patrick Mahomes number 1, obviously because again brains and eyes, and then Stafford would have been my number 2, but he's my number 1 without Mahomes, and Russ is probably
Third to last, I
12,
think.
11, 12, 13
Because
around there.
Bo Nix is probably last, right? No, I have Bo Nix last.
I don't have him in my top 8. So.
Probably Sam Darnold
He's
second to
12.
last.
He was 12 for me. So.
Sam
He
Darnold
looks 12,
second to
so-
last.
Yeah.
Russ third to last. Jaden Daniels fourth to last. C.J. Stroud fifth to last.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably how I have my bottom 5.
Yeah.
I can't put him above
So where do you have
Bo
Lamar?
Nix. 5th. Behind Allen, Stafford, Hurts, Goff, then Lamar. Again, regular season, switches.
Yeah. So
Playoffs.
People know I love Lamar. I think he's one of the more genuine dudes out there. Got to cover him for 3 years. It was great. I root for Lamar. If it's not for the Chiefs, I don't root for the Ravens, but I'd like Lamar to have success. I went number 6 for Lamar. There were 5 quarterbacks on my list ahead of Lamar. I went Stafford, and 7 if you throw in Mahomes, but 6. I went Stafford, Allen, Hurts, Love, Stroud, Lamar, and then I went Herbert. And I know Herbert, he's only
Pretty
played.
high on Stroud, huh? I like Stroud a lot too, but
He's done. I mean, he cooked the Browns. I mean,
I
they
love
hit the
Stroud.
Browns,
You know
but
I love Stroud. I was very high on
Opinion-
him.
I'm just worried about the tank. The vibes are.
Yeah.
If we're vibes guys, if we're going Matt Lane route, the vibes in that building
After this
are-
postseason, this list may change dramatically. I mean, if Stroud goes out there and pees down his leg, and the Chargers are just exotic defenses, and Stroud's throwing interceptions, and probably not going to get protected because we know that's going to be the case anyway. I might change that, but I've seen Lamar so often that's why I've slid him back.
Yeah.
Golf, I've seen it, but again, if I'm separating quarterback from team, I question Goff and Herbert.
Sure.
Herbert, it's almost like I have to separate quarterback from team and coach in Staley
Yeah.
for him in his one playoff game that he's played in. So I was sort of going back on all of those. Love was, close to, being there and getting a week off and having a Super Bowl. And Stroud We'll see what he looks like this weekend.
Goff is so hard because I have perpetually said that he's one of the most, not contract-wise, of course, but I think perception-wise, I think Goff is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the NFL. He's getting his flowers this year, which is nice, but I get it. He is a guy that's going to need a talent around him. I understand that, but Goff is so efficient. So efficient.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason why he's gone to a Super Bowl with one team, and he's the favorite in the NFC to go to another one. I mean, he is just a guy who puts his players and wide receivers in a position to succeed. He's the perfect fit for Detroit, which, again, is you got to remove him from that. But I think Jared Goff on any of these teams, outside of, again, the Bills, Chiefs, I think right now he might be better than Stafford. Like, if you're saying who's better, I think it's Jared Goff. Now, I didn't have him above it in the playoff, like, who do you trust? Because we've, I guess, seen it more recently with Stafford.
I think they have a smart coaching staff because I think they have done a lot to surround Goff and take advantage of his skill sets and what he has and what he brings to the table. And they've accentuated those things, and they've emphasized those things and highlighted them. And he hasn't been relied upon to go and just, hey, you need to go and win us this game, Jared
He's
Goff.
like Alex Smith if Dan Campbell, because Dan Campbell didn't trade. Did he trade for him like before he set foot in the coach's office,
believe
basically?
so.
Then he really is like Alex Smith. It's like as soon as he got there and Dan Campbell kind of got the culture turned around, like Andy Reid did,
Right.
he's kind of their bridge guy. I guarantee you the Detroit Lions have their eyes on someone in the next 4 years that they see as
I think they
Mahomes.
I think they traded.
disagree.
I think they traded for Goff as the bridge for like 2 years
right.
with Dan Campbell.
They got
They
way
did.
more than they
Originally.
expected. Yes.
And then they would draft somebody after that.
He's
and
a
then
year.
they said,
He's a year older than Patrick.
he's overachieving what they expected, basically.
And then they've essentially said, actually, you know what? We can get to a Super Bowl with this guy.
I mean, he's
Right.
So-
37-12,
which is probably what the Chiefs said about Alex Smith when he
yeah.
was overachieving. They said we don't have to. We can kind of take our time scouting a quarterback and not be.
And let's see if we can win a Super Bowl with this guy.
Right.
Okay, we don't think we can get there.
Exactly.
We need to go and invest in a quarterback. Obviously, that's Paxton Lynch.
He's improved
Wait.
year after
God it's
year.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I think you're right. I think you're correct. He was traded for to be the bridge. The issue is the bridge has now become permanent because
Yeah,
that bridge
it's now
is
the
so
roadway.
efficient and effective. Yeah, it's a Super 8 high. I mean, like,
Yeah.
this is the highest, quarterback rating he's ever had, QBR highest, most touchdowns he's thrown, most yards he's ever thrown, yards per attempt, most. I mean, and like, I don't know how you'd say, yeah, we could probably find someone better. He's top, in my opinion, he's top 3 MVP candidate this year.
I think Saquon and
He
Allen
was
and-
until he threw 5 picks in one game.
Yeah, but
it's Lamar,
I'm
Allen,
with
and
you.
Saquon, but
He threw 5 picks in a game that they won, and then proceeded to throw 5 touchdowns in a game that they lost.
That's
So,
true.
like, it's hard to
It
say
is odd.
MVP when
they went
it
1-1
really
in 2
Yeah.
games where he went 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions.
that
Okay, makes sense.
Clearly says it doesn't matter what he does for them to
Makes
win.
sense. I chose, again, at the end of this, I may flip Stroud and Lamar, but I chose Stroud over Lamar because I've seen more of Lamar failing in the postseason, and I saw Stroud's first ever postseason game when he went out there and had almost a perfect quarterback rating.
yeah.
300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Now, Lamar clearly outplayed him that next week when the Ravens and Texans played each other last year in the divisional round. Lamar was awesome, had a couple touchdown passes, I think, had 100 yards rushing, I know that, and a couple of touchdown runs. And Stroud was not all that good against that Ravens team, and that Ravens defense was incredibly good. But I think it's a small sample size that's elevating Stroud over a larger sample size of failure for Lamar that's dropping him.
Breaking news.
Okay?
Pro Bowl wide receiver Zay Flowers ruled out for the Ravens wild card game against the Steelers. So no Zay Flowers.
He's already ruled out. I would say that puts next week in jeopardy for Zay Flowers to play. Look, when John Harbaugh said the next day about it's not season ending, so we know that he's going to be day to day, and he's going to do everything he can to see how soon he can get back. I mean, remember when they were talking about with Justin Reed and the quad injury? It maybe isn't the same here of same commentary, but there's a little same vibe to me that Justin Reed at the beginning of training camp when it was like, Steve Spagnuolo was like, hey, you need to make sure you stay around and engaged in doing these things during training camp. It's not something you think that the guy's going to be back in a couple days. Justin Reed, you need to make sure you're doing all of these different things because you're going to be out a while. And it wasn't day-to-day, as Andy Reid was like, yeah, we're just going to have to take this thing day-to-day with Justin Reed. We'll see. No, and as I reported immediately after that was, no, this thing is severe enough that initial indications have fears of maybe missing the first week, could miss all of training camp, depending on recovery and how it looks in the next week or so. But the initial indication was, oh, bleep, this thing could be really bad. Credit Justin Reed for attacking the rehab. But I got a little of those vibes with John Harbaugh when he said he's going to work and do everything he can to see how soon he can get back. Not he's going to work and do everything he can to play this weekend.
What were they playing for in that game?
The division.
Okay.
So the 3 seed and the division.
Well,
yeah.
If it was just the 3 seed, though,
Right.
I was
Yeah,
gonna
no,
make
they
a rest
had to
argument.
win
Yeah,
to win the
they do
division.
have to win the division. I forgot that.
So now they could have said, well, we'll rest everybody and the Steelers will lose. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Can't do that. Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, so they needed to win the division. They lose Zay Flowers.
But that is why the rest thing is, regardless of if they could have done it or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's still, Packers, Christian Watson.
Christian Watson, yeah, you're playing for the 6 or the 7 seed.
Yeah, that's a
And-
better example of.
Yeah.
Would you rather have the 6 or 7, or would you rather have Christian Watson back?
Yeah. I don't know. Would you rather have the 6 seed and go to Tampa or
Yeah, that
With-
was actually one that I'd say, you know what?
without
yeah.
Christian Watson,
But you
or
went
the
into
7
Dallas.
seed
I
to
know.
Philadelphia with Christian Watson?
You went into Dallas, same
I know.
seeding, but
Yeah,
it's a
I
different
know.
team. I agree.
Yeah, it's just a
Philly ain't Dallas.
When you knew that Philly was the 2 seed, no matter what, like what can
Yeah.
you do to get the 6 seed?
Yeah, you don't want that.
Yeah.
7.
All right, we'll take a timeout. Come back. Continue rolling more zone next. Zay Flowers out this weekend. Steve Spagnuolo, the Jacksonville Jaguars have requested permission to interview Steve Spagnuolo along with the Jets and the Raiders. Nagy and Borgonzi interviewed with the Jets. We'll see. Coming up on SportsCenter, Sterling, in about 3 minutes. I told Dylan this. I'm pretty excited about it. Coming up on SportsCenter says Riley Leonard says his main focus is Notre Dame winning. So, I feel like Notre Dame wins now.
Bold take.
Now that I know the quarterback of the team playing in the national semifinals' main focus is for his team to win, I thought Penn State was going to roll because I thought Riley Leonard's main focus was on what the post-game meal was going to be.
both.
You're going to have a heart attack by the time you're 40 if you don't learn to relax.
It's time for sports or leisure on The Zone with Jason Anderson.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels heading up until 2 o'clock. One more hour to go tonight at 6 o'clock. Our coverage of the national semifinal. They're calling it the Orange Bowl tonight right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Penn State, Notre Dame. Playoff pregame, 6 o'clock, 6:30. That game gets underway. Probably like 6:40 or 6:41, 25, something like that. That is the college football playoff game coming up tonight right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Texas, Ohio State tomorrow right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. And then, of course, we have the 6 playoff games for you in Super Wildcard Weekend here on WHB. 913-3810810. It is time for some sports or leisure. You give us a call, and you can win $25 to Johnny's Tavern, premier sports bar in Kansas City, 10 area locations, including Lawrence and Topeka. $25 to Johnny's Tavern is yours. If you get a sports question and a leisure question right, you then win the prize. Get either of them wrong, you lose. The question is out there available for someone to call in and request. We give out the right answer when it has been answered correctly, or we have simply run out of time to play. That's how you play the game of sports or leisure. Let's go through the categories. I just have 2 categories here, NFL General and Chiefs playoffs. Chiefs career playoffs or other things with Chiefs and games and playoffs. Playoffs, we have that category as well. So Chiefs playoffs. What about the category on the leisure side there, Sterling?
What soup did I just eat? Take a guess at what soup. No, I'm kidding. We're not doing that. It was minestrone. That was the answer.
I would have never. I would have had 30 guesses before I got to minestrone soup.
You watched me eat it and slurp it down in front of you.
I did. Yes, it was not.
We were on air, and I was just drinking it.
Yeah, it wasn't
delicious.
It wasn't comfortable. Yeah, it wasn't.
Well, I kept eye contact with you.
Yeah, that was weird. I also thought it was odd how you sort of wrapped your hands around the bowl, and then in between every slurp, you sort of looked around to make sure nobody was getting near you, like you were a lion eating like a gazelle or something, making sure that it was your meal. That was odd because nobody's going to take your, what's it called?
Minestrone.
Nobody's going to take your minestrone soup there, buddy.
Good. Don't eat my beans. Cover Me Baby.
Okay.
Cover Me Baby, which is you name the original and the cover of the song, bringing that one back. So songs that have at least multiple versions of them, you give me at least 2 of the versions. Riddles. Mm-hmm. Yeah, baby. I love riddles, but apparently no one else does. But every once in a while, we'll get someone to do it, and it's fun.
I love riddles. Nobody else does, so let's keep doing it.
Riddles, and we still have a few left from New Year's Eve. It's still January, right? So we still have a few questions left for New Year's Eve questions.
I don't think we've gone past the time to where you can still say Happy New Year.
So I have a couple questions left for New Year, same me.
Yeah, Adam and I believe that you can, you can say Happy New Year whenever you want to because,
Why not?
We said it all through December. We really enjoyed it. And then it was unfortunate that I was here in studio, and then he gets here after me, and then he opens up the door, and he's like, Happy New Year. I'm like, you son of a gun. I wanted to be the first one to say it to you on an actual New Year.
Breaking news.
Breaking news involving the Las Vegas Raiders. What is that?
Raiders fire GM Tom Telesco. Looked like originally they were just going to fire AP and keep Tom, and they decided, no. Let's just fire them all.
Okay.
After 1 year.
After 1 year. So Tom Brady cleaning house. GM, you got to go.
There can only be one Tom. Brady, not Telesco. Telesco, you got to go.
Telesco, you got to go. You can't sneak a GM past a hungry Tom Brady. You got to go, Tom. All right, 913-3810810. Categories for Sterling, categories for me. I'm ready to go. Sterling, you ready to go?
Let's do it.
Dylan, you good to go? All right, he's excited. See, it's a Happy New Year, right? Are you excited because the Raiders are cleaning house, or maybe the Raiders?
No, I don't like that. That scares me, actually.
Maybe the Raiders will request an interview with Spagnuolo for the GM job. Both. What if they get a coach that wants to do both?
Hear me out.
Bill Belichick.
What if you got Matt Nagy as the OC, Spags as the DC, and Doug Peterson as the head coach? And Borgonzi as your GM. Boom.
By the way, would Bill Belichick take the Raiders' job if he had to answer to Tom Brady?
No. 1,000% no.
Tom Brady wants to hire Bill
I didn't
Belichick
even realize that.
only specifically because now I am your boss.
You could
You
give
now
Do you-
answer to me,
I don't
Bill.
even know if you can say yes. If you're
you could
Bill.
give Belichick $20 million a year, and I think he's still like, no, I will never.
Mark Davis is like, well, Bill, you will have to answer directly to the owner. Oh, okay, I can answer to you. No, not me, Tom Brady. Tom, you will answer directly to Tom. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and return to North Carolina. I'm going to go ahead and keep that job. Sorry. Can we renegotiate the buyout? Hey, son, sorry about that. You're no longer the head coach of North Carolina. I'm coming back. Kind of like Dana Altman at Arkansas. Had the introductory press conference. He saw him do the Woo Pig Suey thingy, and he was like, yeah, I can't do this. I'm going back. I'm going back up north. All right, ready to go. 913-381-0810, the phone number. Let's bring in Craig first up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Craig, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with?
I will start with that leisure cover me, and boy, are the Raiders a mess.
Yeah, they are very, very bad. What do you want? Do you want some,
Already won? Oh, okay.
do you want some
Well done.
country?
Well done, Craig.
Do you want some classic rock? You want some,
Classic rock.
okay. You really got me. Girl, you really got me now.
Van Halen.
That's one, yes. And who was the original?
I want to say it's Ray Davies. The Kinks.
The Kinks, baby. You nailed it.
Nice job. Well done. Well done.
That was
man.
actually I got the lead singer and the band.
Look,
Yeah.
give you half point. I'll give you 2.5.
David
Boom.
Lee Roth too. So
Yeah.
are we done?
Oh, you got David Lee Roth? Yeah, nails. Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
It actually does not help you on the sports side, though. So it just
That's what I figured.
you've just endeared yourself a little bit more to Sterling.
Yeah,
So
Craig,
you
I
got
like
that
it.
going for you, Craig, which is nice. Okay, you got that.
Give me a break, Jason.
Okay, it's we got regular or general NFL, and we have Chiefs in the playoffs.
Playoffs. Let's do that.
All right, Chiefs playoffs for you.
Take it easy.
I always like this one because we like to. I will take it easy here. We like to call it the free space if you've listened for a couple of years. But when it comes to postseason stuff, Travis Kelce.
Bobby Scipio.
Nope, not. Travis Kelce is the all-time leader in Chiefs postseason touchdown receptions in his career. What player is second? Who was number one for a couple of years, and eventually Travis Kelce surpassed
Was that a key word?
said player. What was the key word? I'm sorry.
A couple years.
Maybe.
Really?
I don't know. You tell me, Craig.
Is he with the Dolphins?
He was at one point
Ah,
in his career. At one point, he was with the Dolphins. Oddly enough,
really?
he scored 10 postseason touchdowns for the Chiefs, and he doesn't get enough credit for what he did in a couple of postseason runs for the Chiefs because so much about the Chiefs is other people around him. But scored 10 total touchdowns. Travis Kelce, by the way, has 19, so he's almost doubled this player in career playoff touchdowns. So this guy had 10 total touchdowns.
Wow. What kind of time frame we talking here?
He's got a ring.
Jeez. God, this is gonna make me mad.
Jason's being a little tricky here.
No, we typically, when it comes to like records in the postseason, we've been like, here we go. It's the free space on this guy, or one of them's the free space, or this guy is the free space.
Something Freeman. I don't know.
It was not Josh Freeman or Freddie Freeman or Antonio Freeman. Any out of the Freemans were missing out there? I'm not sure. Craig, thank you for playing, man. Appreciate it. Well done on the covers and the lead singers. Nice job, man.
Bye.
Yes. He was so disappointed. So
I feel
deflated.
bad for Craig. He did great on Cover Me, but
He did, yes.
I wanted him to get that
That's
one.
right.
He earned. I feel like he earned a Johnny's gift card.
But you got only
Yeah, thank God.
it's not sports or leisure. I don't care what you that is, despite the actual name of it.
Yeah, sports. It's sports and we're playing sports and leisure, but it's called sports or leisure.
Well, no, we're playing sports or leisure, but you got to get sports and leisure right.
The name is the question we ask you
Exactly.
when you call in.
Right.
It's not a rules of the game.
Yeah, it's like when Family Guy always joked about, they said the name of the movie in the movie.
Spider-Man 3D.
Sports or leisure. That's the name of the game. Sports or leisure. All right, 913-381-10. My wife and I, we watched It Ends With Us. She's a big fan of the whatever author that writes those books. And so at the end of the movie, they're driving away, and she goes, looks at her daughter, "It ends with us." And I only thought about Peter. Oh, they said the name of the movie. He's in the movie. All right, 913-381-10. Charles next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Charles, sports or leisure? What side do you want to start with?
Hey, run that question that was just out there.
Yes.
Personally.
So Travis Kelce, in the last couple of years, has been so good in the postseason that he has moved all the way up to number 1 in touchdowns in the postseason for the Chiefs in history. Who did he pass, and who is second in total touchdowns with 10? Travis Kelce has 19 now because he's been really good. 10 total touchdowns in the postseason, this fella. And Craig, by the way, was like, "Is he a Dolphin?" And my hint back to him was, he was at one point.
So it's receiving and rushing total.
Yeah, there you go. It's a total. There you go. There's the next step. Yeah, we're putting this puzzle together. Connected them dots. Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
He was a Dolphin.
He certainly was. He didn't ask to be traded. They just let him walk. Thankfully, he walked to Kansas City, and then he ran. He was running. You want to take a
So he was a Dolphin. He was a Dolphin, then a Chief.
Yeah.
Yep. Want that with Dart, Charles?
Oh, wow.
There you go.
You're on the right track. You
yeah.
When you said, both rushing and receiving.
By the way, my buddy who's a Bills fan texted in the right answer, so,
Play for Dolphins, Chiefs, Bears, Falcons, Cardinals.
Played for Dolphins, Chiefs, then sat out with COVID.
Yeah.
The COVID year, opted out. All right, throw it out, Charles. Need an answer.
Jamal Charles.
Jamal Charles, incorrect. Charles, thank you for playing. I appreciate it. That was Jamal Charles, and Charles was the contestant there. Got me confused. 913-381-10. Let's go to Lindsay next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Lindsay, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with?
You guys still got that Damian Williams question?
Hey.
We hold on. Let me see. Hold on. Let me check. Okay. Travis Kelce is the all-time leader in postseason touchdowns with 19. Which player did he eventually pass these last 2 years and was first, but is now second in all-time postseason touchdowns for the Chiefs, combined rushing and receiving? What say you?
Damian Williams?
It was Damian Williams. Well done.
Play off Damian.
Nice job, Damian Williams. Sometimes the free space when it comes to a lot of these different questions because, again, very underappreciated.
Yeah.
For
in
his
2
time
years, by
in
the way.
Kansas City.
10 in 2 years.
Yeah, right. All right, over to the leisure with his name, Sterling.
Cover Me Baby, riddles, or New Year's Eve questions.
Cover me, baby.
All right. Do you want country or classic rock or in between?
Classic rock.
There's a genre called in between.
I
didn't know that.
No.
Wow.
How old are you?
25 going on 26.
There it is. That's the right answer. That's what we were looking for. Well done.
All right.
Boom.
I'll do this one, then I won't go with the older one for you. American Woman. American Woman, stay away from me. American Woman.
That would be Mr. Lenny Kravitz covering The Who.
The Who?
They covered.
The Who?
It's not The Who. You're close.
No, I was asking him the Who. The Who? Who's he looking for?
Take a. What does Jason say before you? You're correct, but there's a name in before Who.
The Guess Who.
The Guess Who. Yes.
Those crafty Brits, they're always trying to scheme us out of it, I'll tell you.
I thought it was but it was the Guess Who.
The Guess Who
There we
and Lenny Kravitz.
Also, one thing real quick. Keep the Counting Crows name out of your mouth. They're one of the best bands of the late 90s.
In your face, Sterling.
Hey, I'm just saying.
Wow, I would disagree. I'm sorry, they're not for me. I'm not going to yuck anyone's yum, but Counting Crows not for me. Hey!
I feel you. Well, hey, I'm 3-0 in Super Wildcard Weekend.
There we
I
go.
was going to say super duper. Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your day, all right?
Absolutely. Lindsay, thank you for playing, man. How about that? Got the difficult Damian Williams question and then also the Counting Crows one.
Yeah, good job from Lindsay.
And the Guess Who and the Who.
And a rip on me for my...
just general opinion.
My fineness.
Yes, right.
They're fine.
You have a more refined palate when it comes to musical history?
The Counting Crows are fine. They don't move the needle.
That's fine. They moved a lot of needles.
They're the Damian Williams during the regular season.
You're saying they're underappreciated?
They're the regular season.
Oh, okay, I see. Avery, sports or leisure, what side would you like to start with, sir?
That Counting Crows guy has been with a lot of very attractive women,
Yes.
and it's very puzzling.
Yes.
Including Emmy Rossum, the girl from...
Look, rock stars, man.
Shameless.
It's a lot
how much older are you?
a lot of rough-looking rock stars that have some good-looking women.
And me.
He's like a John Mayer, but then you look at him, and you're like, I don't get it.
Doesn't look like a John Mayer.
And the Guess Who are Canadian. I can't believe you gave that guy that. That was terrible.
I felt bad. It's called Most People Win. You know the name of the show.
It's called
right.
it's called Some
if you
People
have
Get
Google
Second
this
Chances
correctly-
Except Avery.
I'll do Chiefs playoff stuff.
Chiefs playoff stuff. Okay. Chiefs playoff stuff for you. Let's go with this one. Travis Kelce, that fella has 7 games with 100 or more receiving yards in the postseason.
True, nailed it. All right, sports and leisure. I'll go to.
How did you know I was going to say?
Reynolds.
How'd you know I was going to say true or false? What are the odds of that? Travis Kelce has that many games. There are only 2 other Chiefs players, Avery, to have more than one 100-yard receiving game in the postseason for the Chiefs. Who are they? The they.
I mean, I'm not going to look anything up. I'm just going to guess Sammy Watkins and Tyreek Hill.
That's right.
Yeah.
It is Sammy Watkins and Tyreek of the Hill. Tyreek
I think
had
he
4.
looked it up that quickly. That was impressive.
He
said
looked
he
it up in
wasn't.
his. He hid the answers in his mind. He cheated, and nobody even saw that he was cheating because he took all of the answers that he was going to cheat with and then hid it in in his mind. That's the best way to hide
I
him.
was going to pre-guess Frank Clark before I heard the question. I was like, it's going to be the sack leader.
This is going to be Frank Clark. No,
I don't even know if he is. I think he is. But
Frank Clark has more sacks than Travis Kelce in the postseason. That is correct.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill with 4 100-yard games and Sammy Watkins with 2. Leisure with Sterling. Jackson Heights on.
I'll do the covers.
Okay. All right. Come on, feel the noise.
Oh, Quiet Riot and Twisted Sister.
Well,
he's looking for the Canadian band, though. I think.
No, I'm not looking for Twisted Sister.
Oh, somebody else did it?
You're not?
Oh, Slade. Slade was the original, and then Quiet Riot was the cover. My bad.
Yeah, Quiet Riot and Slade, yeah. So,
wow, I can't believe that Sterling's letting you
remember,
get that one
yeah.
right.
What happened, Avery?
It's a Canadian band.
Slade's British. They're, yeah, the song makes sense because their voice doesn't sound very good.
I'm pretty sure Quiet Riot actually covered 2 Slade songs, which made it even funnier.
What was the other one?
I gotta find it. I'll find it at some point and I'll talk about it, but I don't want to look it up right now.
Okay, great. We will put you on hold, Avery. Get your information. Congratulations, sir. Well done.
Super duper.
All right, we will take a timeout. We'll come back, continue playing some sports or leisure. More right after this. It is presented by Johnny's Tavern, giving away $25 to Johnny's Tavern. If you get a sports question and a leisure question right, you win. More Zone next.
now. So I knew it.
How about that? I knew that you
Boom.
knew it. I never doubted you for a second. So I just assume when it comes to music, I'm not the one that's going to be able to check any of your facts.
Yeah.
913-381-810 is the phone number. Categories on the sports side. We've got general NFL and we have Chiefs playoffs. About leisure, what are the categories, Sterling, again?
Cover Me Baby, which again, name a couple songs, the couple artists with the song I give you. Some
Okay.
riddles, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And we have New Year Same Me, which is just a couple New Year's Eve questions since it's January 9th.
All right. 913-381-810. Let's go to the phone lines, and we bring in Tim next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Tim, sports or leisure, what side would you like to start with, sir?
Let's do leisure.
All right, what are you feeling on the leisure side?
Cover me. Please.
All right, we'll go with Cover Me. All along the Watchtower.
Bing, 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 bing,
Okay,
bing,
obviously
bing, bing.
Hendrix.
Yes.
So his was the original, I assume.
No.
Oh.
Oh, it was a cover.
Yes.
Okay.
And it was by. He covered it a year after the original came out. It was,
Yeah.
Yeah, he covered it, but he covered
Zeppelin?
it from the band that was. I'm sorry.
well, what was that?
Sorry.
Led Zeppelin.
No, and that's not your final answer. That was just
geez.
your
Really?
first.
Is that right?
First talking out
Oh, yeah,
loud.
I saw one fly over my car just a minute ago.
You saw a Zeppelin
Look
fly
at
over.
that.
Yeah, it's
That's-
It was
terrifying.
actually the Goodyear blimp, I think.
Okay, good call.
Did it read Ice Cube's a pimp?
It was written by a singer-songwriter who I really dislike.
Oh, okay. Well, then you should know it.
Don't understand why this guy.
Counting Crows?
No, I actually consider this person a little bit to be like I consider Taylor Swift to be the this of today's generation, where they're a great songwriter, but I just don't really get the hype.
You said that in Kansas City, Sterling, by the way, just as a heads
Yeah,
up.
I like Taylor Swift. I have nothing against her. Just that
like you
music
hate
is
her.
not for me.
I feel like
but I
you
think she's a
prefer
great
Chiefs.
songwriter.
I feel like you're kind of saying you prefer Chiefsaholic to Taylor Swift.
Don't you dare.
I that's what I'm hearing. Maybe I'm misreading the whole thing, but I'm interpreting what you're saying as that.
Songwriter primarily, but and it was a hit for the original artist.
Oh yeah.
Is it Bone Thugs and Harmony? I'm gonna say that's a no. Then fine.
Oh gosh, I'm blanking big time.
You're gonna be not thrilled when I tell you who it is.
Just take a guess.
Maybe
You can try right
was
now.
he a solo artist or part of a group?
Solo.
Solo? Okay. Oh,
In theaters right now.
I love that we had the thing go off like 10 seconds ago. We're just like, yeah, you're good.
you know. Dylan? I doubt it.
It's Bob Dylan, yes.
Oh my God.
You couldn't tell by my perfect rendition. of,
Taylor Swift,
Bob
the
Dylan.
Bob Dylan of today's generation.
You know what? That's a lot of people have said that. A lot of people have said that.
That would actually be a compliment as
Yeah,
well for
right.
a lot of
That's-
people. So.
Yeah, she seems to be as very subversive as well. So, all right, on to the sports side. Tim, we have Chiefs playoffs and general NFL.
Let's do Chiefs playoffs.
Okay, very good. Patrick Mahomes against the Eagles in the Super Bowl completed 77.8% of his passes. He set the Chiefs record for passing or completion percentage in a playoff game. Who did he pass? What player before the Chiefs and the Eagles and Patrick Mahomes with his almost 80% completion percentage against the Eagles in the Super Bowl, which quarterback for the Chiefs previously had the record? It's not a trick question. It's not Patrick Mahomes in a different game.
Single game
Record for completion percentage.
Any playoffs. Doesn't have to be Super Bowl.
Yep, absolutely right. Any playoff game.
playoff.
That is correct. Any playoff game.
Let's see. I'm gonna have to go with Lenny. I don't know how unless it was Trent, but I let me think about this. So who played in more playoff games? First of all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh wait, no. This may be a real trick question.
It's not Mahomes. I can promise you that.
It can't be Mahomes, but could it be Alex Smith?
Is that your final answer?
I guess not.
No, I mean, is that your final answer?
Yeah.
Okay, great. It's Alex Smith. Yes, Alex Smith against the Houston Texans, the 30-0 win.
Yeah.
He was 17 of 22, which was 77.3, and Patrick Mahomes was 77.8 against the Eagles. Mahomes, can you let Alex Smith have one thing? You couldn't let him have one thing, really? Mahomes is so selfish. He's like, oh, I won all the records.
All that BS about he helped me. Everything I owe it to Alex. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Alex, so awesome, man.
Right.
In that game against Houston, I watched it when I was in college when he, completed almost 80% of his passes, and they finally won a playoff game. It's so cool. I love looking up to him. Yeah, okay, cool. We'll let him have the record then. So selfish, man. God. We'll put you on hold, Tim, and get your information. Congratulations, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. 913-381-0810.
No hand-holding going on there.
Nope, not at all.
Most people win. That's the name of the game.
Not at all. I wonder, so he was 21 of 27, so then that would be, if Mahomes literally had one fewer completion, it would still be Alex Smith's. But he had to go and complete every pass in the second half. Oh, he's so selfish. I've always said that. Bobby next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Bobby, sports or leisure, what side would you like to start with, sir?
We will start with leisure. Leisure. I am so sorry that guy from Counting Crows is just ugly as hell.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't
Nothing good about him.
I'm pretty sure he doesn't care.
All right, cover me, baby.
TMTO, too. I guarantee it.
Cover me, baby. Riddles or New Year's Eve questions.
Cover me.
All right, cover me. We now have. All right, I like this one. Nothing compares to you. There's been a lot by this. There's about 3 that I think were really, really popular.
I'll give you 3 of them.
Yes.
Prince, Sinead O'Connor, and Chris Cornell.
Yep, those are the 3 I was
You're
thinking
into
of.
sports.
Nailed
Nice
it.
job. Well done. Yeah, you're into sports and nothing wrong with leisure either, Bobby. Nice job.
Yeah.
What's
Heck
going on back there,
absolutely.
pal?
You got
Dylan's
it.
just shaking his head. It's like, he meant to give him the ding, 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 and instead he gave him the sounder. So
I made that same. Well,
Nothing compares to sports.
I thought I gave him the ding. Thought I gave him the ding, ding.
Stop doing it.
But I did not.
Give me an easy one, Jason.
All right,
I gotta sling some insurance here.
All right, so a general NFL or Chiefs playoffs?
Playoffs.
Playoffs, okay. L'Jarius Sneed.
Jesus.
Correct.
Has 50.
Loves you.
L'Jarius Sneed will not be able to improve on his 58 playoff tackles in the postseason. So he will not be able to pass this man, who now is the all-time leading tackler for the Chiefs in the postseason. This man, who now is the all-time leading tackler for the Chiefs, combined, by the way, solo and assists. Leading tackler for the Chiefs in the postseason. This became a little bit easier because Sterling, you want to throw a dart as to who this player passed?
What was that? Sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
That's fine. I knew you weren't. That's why I asked you.
Yeah, go ahead and do it. It's like
You
when
were-
the teacher calls on you,
You were
and you're
reading.
like,
You're like, no, I wasn't paying attention. Oh, really? I didn't know that. Yes. Can you pass me that note, please?
Blue 42.
Nope. Get that note up here. Get that note. Oh,
It was a love letter for Dylan.
Sterling loves Dylan. I knew it. Sterling's a big fan of D. So L'Jarius Sneed has 58 playoff tackles. He won't be able to improve on that because he's in Tennessee. He won't be able to catch this man, who Sterling now has become the all-time leading tackler for the Chiefs in the postseason, which became easier over the last year because he passed somebody else that made it a little more difficult. Do you know who's second? I'll tell you who's number 1.
Yeah.
That's easy, right?
Yeah.
So no, I told Sterling I just mimed it, right, to Sterling. So who he passed was much more. This was a much more difficult question before the guy who's number one. You can go ahead and think about who's number one all the while, Bobby, if you want to.
All along the watchtower.
All along the watchtower, you can be thinking about who the all-time leading tackler for the Chiefs in the postseason is. Who now is the all-time leading tackler for the Chiefs in the postseason?
I don't even have a.
Yeah,
well,
I mean,
nothing compares.
who could you think of that tackles people on the Chiefs?
Oh, some with Chris something. What's the hint here? I know you're trying to.
No, I'm just saying he tackles a lot of people. So I mean, and he has recently passed and moved into
Chris
number
Jones.
one. Chris Jones, Bobby is incorrect, sir. It is not Christopher Jones. Sorry about that. Thank you for playing, though, sir. 913-3-810-810. I think Chris Jones, while playing in a lot of games, I think he's still a decent way.
Well, yeah, he plays defensive tackle. He's not going to tackle a lot of guys.
Yeah, I want to actually find.
He's going to get those sacks, but he's not going to get a lot of tackles.
I want that sack. That's there. All right, 913. I want to see what the tackles combined. Let's go with. You know what? Let's just do some really low numbers so I can
20th.
get everybody in here. In
tackles, about 20th.
Tackles combined. Let's see. Where is Christopher Jones? Mr. Jones and me.
Huh. It all comes back to counting crows.
Chris Jones is 10th.
All right. There you go.
He's roughly 50 behind this man.
Yeah.
Who's now number one. Let's go to Jeff next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jeff, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with?
Well, let's start with sports, if that's Nick Bolton.
So I'll ask you the question. I'll just say, who's the all-time leader in postseason tackles in franchise history?
Let's try Nick Bolton.
Nick Bolton is correct. You know, he recently passed last year. Dan Sorensen.
Wow.
Until Nick Bolton and the Super Bowl against the 49ers. Before the Super Bowl last year, Dan Sorensen was the all-time leading tackler in Chiefs playoff history.
Wow.
Like I said,
everybody loved to hate.
I know. The question became a little bit easier with Nick Bolton now.
Well, he was dirty. He's always getting the dirty work
Dan.
done.
Dirty Dan.
Getting dirty work done right there.
Like I said, the question became easier now, right? Because Dan Sorensen's a tough one to get on all-time leading tacklers. Go over to leisure with Sterling right now.
Riddles, cover me, baby, or New Year Eve questions.
This is where I always have the problem with Sterling. He's too young and knows every damn thing. Let's try New Year's.
All right. You know what? Here you go. What country produces champagne? The drink of choice on New Year's Eve.
France.
It is. There you go.
Champagne. Champagne, France.
That's pretty easy right there.
Well done, Jeff. How about that? We'll put you on hold, get your information. Congratulations, sir. Well done.
Thank you.
Absolutely. 913-3-810-810.
He made me feel bad.
Why?
Because apparently I always give him hard questions. I didn't think so.
But you got the Nick Bolton one right.
Yeah.
So it was halfway there. He only had to really answer one question because that Nick Bolton one was out there as the 50 different hints.
Boom.
And leading it
only
to
50?
Hey, it's Nick Bolton. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, wrap up the show next.
Lions.
Right? Why change now?
That'd be silly.
You know what I mean? Heck yeah, dude. Eventually,
I got gumptions.
Right? Yeah, you'll be right eventually. Maybe. Nobody's gonna go 0-11 in this thing, right? Right?